Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 26 of Bxb'S Bits and Bobs. It's sort of our 1 year anniversary in some ways. Kind of like 52 weeks, so I think we might have skipped a couple. But we'll consider this our 1 year anniversary, guys. Celebration! Celebration time, come on!
Now, I didn't know that before you hit to go live, so I'm going to have to try and find a beer now.
Yeah, well, because you need an excuse to drink, Richard.
Yeah.
That's your life. You don't need it. You're always drinking. You're like, so isn't that how when you get to 30 something, you just get through the day? You just stay basically inebriated. I mean, I
don't drink, actually. I can honestly say the only time I drink is probably on this show.
Fair enough. Let me first of all apologize, guys, if there's any technical problems. I've had to change my internet setup recently, and the guys tell me I'm not necessarily coming through as well as I have in the past. So fingers crossed, we've fiddled around with things, and it's gonna be at least half decent now. But you know, it could all go wrong in the middle. It wouldn't be the first podcast to all go wrong in the middle. And to be honest, with most BXB Bits and Bobs episodes kind of go wrong in the middle, but you know, not from technical reasons. So
or earlier. And you're ill, so this is going to suck.
Yeah, extra suck. I should have called the episode that, actually. Episode 26, extra suck. I have been so ill for the last 2 weeks. It's been really shitty. So I'm just going to put that as an excuse as well. I did the review for The Surge, kind of like on one day where I had sort of like a bare minimum lucidity. And yeah, I listened back to it, and I definitely ramble incoherently more than normal. So thankfully though, it was all like positive rambling. So I didn't get like the PR people being like, what the fuck, man? Like, you know, you basically sound like you're off your face while you slag this shit off. So no, everybody's happy because I really like the game. But I missed out some like proper critical parts of what I wanted to talk about the game from the review. I completely forgot to mention like some really important elements. So we'll talk about that later. I felt really guilty about that after I put it all up. I was like, oh my god, how did I forget that? Oh my god, how did I forget to talk about that?
So we've got some opportunities to talk about that stuff.
Yes, no, I definitely want to go over that. I really want to talk because you're the Souls guy, so it's kind of like, oh, I really want to talk to Richard about that from the Dark Souls perspective a bit more than me. But before we get into all the games and stuff, have we all seen Guardians of the Galaxy 2?
Yep.
That was the one of the high points for me for the last 2 weeks. That was awesome.
Same for me. Yeah, it was brilliant. One of the few films of when I left the cinema, I was like, yes, I have my money. I'm happy with that. You know, I'm glad to have paid you for and enjoyed that. So yeah, it was a brilliant film.
I feel like that must have been basically 2 weeks ago because I'm struggling to remember it a bit now. But like, yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. I didn't think it was as good as the first one, but I did have fun with it. Yeah,
I don't think it could ever be though, because you know the first one was good because it was a surprise. Everyone expected that to be pretty much a turkey, and it ended up being the best thing that Marvel have done so far. So yeah, against that backdrop, it did well to have me leaving the cinema positive. Good job.
I just thought as well, while we talk about Guardians,
well, with Groot,
and I talk over Richard. While we talk about guys and I talk over Richard, because let's be honest, who cares what he says? I feel like I should introduce people. Yeah, that's fair. Between the moans, you know, she has to ask, you know, about you and stuff, see how you're doing. But she listens sometimes. Hi, Mom. So I should introduce people. That's Richard. I'm implying that you're having a sexual relationship with. He's a reviews editor.
Hi.
Hey, Rich. How you doing? Joel is here today, top PC contributor and also PS4 guy. And also, Joel, in talking about PS4, Marvel Heroes has just gone into open beta. I was just looking at that earlier on today. You should probably think about checking it out. They've definitely made some QOL improvements. Things like the menu feel much better and stuff. So maybe actually should have a little look at that when you get a chance, if you get a moment. And he's here today. Conspicuous by his absence is Adam, but he's getting ready for a new job on Monday. So we thought, you know, we should let him have this one off. So he's not played anything either. So whatever. But congrats and good luck, Adam. And I believe Rob, who's only been on the show once, he's not very well right now. So feel better, Rob. You know, I don't want to go into details about how he's not feeling well because it's quite private. So I hope he feels better.
It all over Facebook.
Gratuitous. detail. gratuitous detail. Things I didn't want to know about Rob, I now know about Rob. But you know, I hope he feels better. So that's just a catching up on the crew, catching up for everybody on our 1 year anniversary. So I thought we should go around the houses a little bit there. But yeah, Guardians was awesome, wasn't it? But you know, I'm really torn, Rich, because you saw a film that I'm like, half the people I know love it, and half the people I know hated it. How did you feel about Alien Covenant?
There are 3 things that I thought were bullshit, and the rest of the movie was an excellent mega mix of everything you love about Aliens. Like if Jive Bunny directed it or something. It's good.
Okay.
I don't know if I really want to spoil the bad things. That
well, if it's plot related, no, don't. But like, obviously.
What about gestation time? Is that spoilery?
Sounds incredibly nerdy. I'll give you that.
Yeah. No, like in Alien, the whole point of the movie was that there was something in John Hurt, and you didn't really know what it was or what it was going to do. And it took
you didn't know something was in John Hurt, though, did you? Until it came out.
No, but so... you knew that the facehugger thing had done something to him, presumably, but you weren't sure what. And it took a long time to work out what that thing was. This goes more the Alien versus Predator route, and no hanging around. As soon as someone's done, they're done. And I'm not sure I think that really flies on a...
Well, you see,
film.
I think that's the comparison between late 70s early cinema and 2000 teens cinema. That one of the biggest issues with movies today, and I'm talking about like all movies, is that none of them understand the skill of patience and how you to build pathos and actually like really develop a situation over time. Everything has to rush to the climax, to the moment, to the big build. Like there is no, it's just, I'm such an old man, but films don't feel to me like they were, especially sci-fi in the 70s and the 80s, especially the 70s. 70s era science fiction is some of the still the best, really. You know, when you consider what came out of that era. And it's just, yeah, everything's always in a rush to the big scare, isn't it? To the big jump, and none of them want to earn it. They all just want to get there immediately. So I'm not surprised to hear that criticism, but
I mean, I kind of get it as well. It's more than just the modernity thing. It's the fact that this is a series that's been around for a long time. People know what's going to happen now. So is there much to be gained in hanging around waiting for it? But
yeah, no, I can see that.
Out of canon to go that route. But anyway, positive overall.
Okay. I do want. The only reason I'm not seeing it is because I've been sick and I haven't, the time I've to have to go to the cinema and stuff. And there's nothing worse. If you ever try to sit in the cinema and watch a film when you're under the weather, especially if it's an intense movie, like you'll come out like feeling 90 million times worse. Like so shit, like with the music pumping and pounding your head and the visuals, especially if it's an intense horror movie. I just knew I'd come out feeling uber sick. So I just was like, no, not gonna do that to myself. However, the problem is with this year's lineup of films, because I haven't gone to see it in that week or two of release, I'm probably not going to, because there's going to be 6 other films to go and see by this time next week. So you know, it's just there's so many films and games,
isn't it? So yeah, the release schedule seems to mirror the artistic content. So we're talking about films themselves just cutting to the chase dead quick. It's the same with the release schedule itself. If you don't catch it in the first week or two, it's gone. There's none of that that we used to have with films hanging around for 3-4 months.
So I did have a film experience with my wife, though. I introduced her to a franchise she'd never seen. And I thought, you know what? Because I saw the newest iteration come out on Xbox to watch. And I was just like, do you know what? Have you seen this? Obviously, I just assumed she had. She likes this type of genre. And I was just like, you've seen that? And she, no. So we sat down and I rented XXX with Vin Diesel. To introduce my wife to this turn of the millennium action masterpiece. No, that film is really bad. That film is really, really bad. Not necessarily because of the action or because of Vin, because it's one of those great examples of the turn of the millennium sexism in films. Like misogyny and sexism, and to think we thought that shit was okay. Like, the other one that always comes to mind when I've seen it recently, Turn of the Millennium film I really enjoyed was 40-Year-Old Virgin. There is just some horrendous treatment aimed at women in these films that just make you feel like skin crawlingly uncomfortable when you're sat there, especially with your wife. Like, and it's just like, oh God, you guys, yeah, things are so much better now. It's not perfect, but definitely better. It's just the worst. The bit when he's so he's gone to the supervillain's lair, and they're in tight now. I don't know if you remember this cinematic masterpiece, guys. Do you guys remember Triple X? Like, the plot.
I have.
You know,
I have seen it. I can barely remember anything about it, though.
For the best, definitely, Joel. I'm quite jealous of you and not being able to remember this. It's fresh in my mind, scarred into my mind. So he's got in with this the name of the supervillain group, Anarchy 99, which is an amazingly corny sounding Turn of the Millennium. I love it. See, there's a lot of fun stuff about that. Also, it's the cheap new metal soundtrack, like all those songs you can remember that weren't as popular as Linkin Park Millennium, so you can't remember any of them. That's the entire soundtrack. So it's amazing, like Rammstein and fucking stuff like that. Brilliant. So he goes and then he gets to the supervillains there. I'll tell the story. And he goes, "Go, you have to sleep in this special bedroom I have set up for you." And he's like, "Yeah, cool." And he goes in, and there's just a woman doing a pole dance on the end of his bed, just waiting for him. And there's music playing. You're wondering, is the music playing in the room, or is it just in his head, or in her head, or are they sharing some form of sexy hallucination? And she's pole dancing away, and this goes on for 3 minutes, just gratuitous pole dancing. Like, she could be naked considering what she isn't wearing, and it's just and then he uses this is the line when he goes to consummate this woman who's clearly there against her will by the supervillain, but it's okay. And even though Vin Diesel's the hero, he's still gonna fuck her. And he goes in with the line, "The things I'm gonna do for my country." Right. He then objectifies her to the point where he no longer sees her as a human being. She's just a thing, and he's gonna fuck her even though she's there against her will, because she's just a woman and it doesn't matter. And I just felt a little bit sick when I saw this. I was like, holy shit. This is what we thought was cool films. And by we, I mean men of a certain age at the turn of the millennia. This is bad shit.
I don't know. Rape culture is coming back, though. It's cool again now.
Oh, is it cool? Oh, nostalgia. Is it coming back on that wave of nostalgia? All those cartoon characters we see advertising fucking loans and shit now on TV. Are they capitalizing on that? Are they, "Hey guys, day rape's cool. Slip her a Mickey and fuck her in the loo. She won't mind." That kind of thing. Yeah, it's coming back, Richard. Is it big where you live? I hadn't noticed. I come from a civilized part of the UK.
This is an American movie, right? So post-Trump fits right in.
Sure. So that was my side note about how depressing films were to a degree from that era. I hope you guys feel like you learned something from this. So
I've learned not to watch it, and I was considering doing so. So
I still want to watch the sequel, because it looks like they basically made it look Fast and Furious, mashed up with Triple X, and it's just that looks fun. I might give that a go, and they've got strong women in there, and clearly it's updated for the modern sort of cinema goer. But yeah, going back to watch that original, it's man, there's some really dodgy films from that time period, some really iffy shit.
They did do another one, didn't they? There was a Triple X 2.
Video games. Now, that aside, I feel like Joel, you've not said anything here. Ice Cube, State of the Union, Triple X 2.
Yeah,
I know all the details. Yeah, baby. It's even worse. It's got. I watched because after we watched the first one, we watched the trailer for the sequel, both of them, just out of curiosity, and it's goes through the cast: Ice Cube, Samuel Jackson, Scott Speedman. Anybody remember Scott Speedman?
Who's Scott Speedman?
A guy that warranted a high up trailer billing in the 2003. Scott Speedman. You should look him up. This guy was.
Look him up.
He was hot property back then. Joel, can I take your silence as tantamount to agreement that rape culture in early millennium films is really fucking cool?
I just absolutely You're going back eras. I haven't seen that film in a hell of a long time. God, I probably watched it when I would have been like just finished secondary school when that film was out. So I've kind of erased it from my memory, and I don't want to partake in a conversation about you trying to put it back in there, I guess.
but the scary thing is, though, you're the age you were is the age I was as well at the time, and we were the market for that. Like, this was their attempt at making James Bond cool, right? Basically, he's basically James Bond for a new generation before they did that themselves. And it's all like extreme sports, and he's covered in crappy tribal tattoos, and he's a dude, bro, and it's just like, and he's raping women, and it's like, yeah, so fucking awesome, radical, man, shredding the gnar. It's all about that. But yeah, so have you looked up Scott Speedman, Richard?
That's what we're just looking at.
Scott, he's in the Underworld series of films.
He is. He was the Lycan. He was the Lycan guy. I remember that now you said that. He was something for about 5 minutes. Yes, he really was. And he's probably dead now from an overdose. And nobody even realizes that, or he's like managing a used car dealership. One of these.
He's still going. 2016, Underworld. Again. Underworld Blood Wars. So
no, but I bet you that's a flashback that he didn't actually shoot.
No, you're correct. It says archive footage only.
I fucking knew it.
Don't worry. Instead, in 2016, he was in a film called The Monster. He played a character called Roy. And he's also in Animal Kingdom, which is a TV series on TNT. He plays Barry Baz Brown.
I mean, I shouldn't judge too much. I mean, I talk about video games in a bi-weekly podcast, and I don't even get paid to do it. So the dude's in a film of some kind and on IMDb. Props to him. Well done, Scott. That's what I say. But what a name as well, Scott Speedman. I mean, that can't be a real name.
Most actors make up a name, though, don't they? That's one of the privileges you get.
No, I can tell you now, not most. The reason that would happen sometimes is to do with if they have a clash already, like on the books, when they join one of the actors' unions, either like SAG-AFTRA or something in the US, or I think it's Equity in the UK. If there's already an actor with that name, they then need to change their name, and it can be a small change, or they can really go for it. So, so a lot of the time, the stage names will come from that.
Right.
Yeah. There you go, a little insider acting knowledge for you.
Looks like that is his real name, though, because his dad is called Roy Speedman. Sorry to break your dreams. He wasn't sat there thinking, right, I think I'm going to go.
Didn't you just say
Simon Fast guy? No, wait.
Joel, didn't you just say he played Roy in that film in 2016 as well?
I don't know. I've got to get it back up. I closed my browser page for it. He played, in the 2016 movie The Monster. He played a character called Roy. Do
you think that was like a real moment for him? Like, for my dad, I'm gonna play Roy for my dad, inspired by Popper Speedman. I'm gonna knock this one out the fucking.
Could have been.
I mean, I know it's not XXX2 State of the Union, but I'm doing my best, man. I'm doing my best. Jesus, just raw emotion.
This is why we get so many listeners, right? No one else.
Scott Speedman fan cast. It's almost as good as the Paul Daniels episode, but not quite. Considering how many games we've got to talk about, we just spent 20 minutes talking about Scott Speedman. It's amazing. It's amazing. That's called priorities. That's because I'm sick and I don't know what I'm doing. Right. Should we actually touch on some of these news bits and stuff before we delve into the games? We'll go through this quite quickly. Did you guys all see the Destiny 2 big Twitch stream reveal from the big event in LA about what Destiny 2 is and stuff? I am fucking psyched.
I'm so the opposite of psyched. So bored of that idea already.
Oh man,
don't know what it is. I keep catching myself and thinking, Richard, are you trying to be the hip guy now? That's down on Destiny
so hip,
just
Richard.
Because it's cool. And
it's so hip.
Maybe I am. I don't know, but I can't be bothered. I'm not excited at all. What was the LA thing? Was it exciting? Because I've just kind of seen was it 2.5 minute reveal trailer?
So I decided like 5 minutes before it happened to live tweet the whole thing. Be at home. I watched the Twitch stream. I'll live tweet it. And watching it live, there's always like when I was practicing basically for the E3 this year. I wanted to get back into the mindset of live tweeting something. And, you know, when you do that live and, you know, it's a live audience is there, you know, you get swept along in it as well. That definitely helps. But it was a very nicely done hour-long presentation they did of Destiny 2. They, you know, they had Luke Smith up there, which I remember back from his days at 1UP when he was just a video game journalist. You know, he's living the dream. It's cool to see that guy has achieved those things. He's a really nice dude. And, you know, he's now the lead designer. And basically what I feel like they've done with Destiny 2 is they've listened to their audience. They've refined the formula. I hope their back end is much improved. You know, their pipeline for content creation, which is where so many of the problems from Destiny 1 came from. Fingers crossed they've rebuilt that. But, you know, as long as that core gunplay is as good and it's still one of the best shooters of this generation. The way that game feels when you play it is brilliant. So if they can put out good new story content, you know, for the single player experience, then I'm there. You know, they've got, and that's what this seems to imply. You know, the first mission they showed was the tower under attack, you know, and that social space, you know, like the back of your hand, destroyed in ruins as you fight this Cabal invasion. And I'm just like, yep, I'm in. Like, you don't need to show me anything else. I'm there. Like, I was 100% sold immediately. But I'm a mark for Destiny. I fucking love Destiny, man. And it's like, so they've talked about, I think the most interesting thing they've talked about is this new form of kind of quasi matchmaking they're going to be doing, these guided games. So they're going to kind of like, for people that don't have an active clan to do the high end stuff, the raids, the nightfalls and things like that, they'll be able to do like a thing where they can look up, be looking for a couple of people or a person or 3 people or 4 people to fill in the gaps on their 6-person team. And then this will all be in game, and you'll be able to then join up to that clan, maybe just for that one thing, or maybe you'll want to hang around with these guys and stuff, make friends. And then reason it's called guided games is that these people in those clans, the hardcore of the hardcore, they'll act as the Sherpa that will then sort of take you through the more difficult experiences of Destiny. Now, I'm only on the peripheral of the Destiny community, but it is genuinely one of the best, nicest, most sort of helpful groups of gamers that I have had an experience with. They're great communities online, and to try and levy that to actually help engage those solo players more into those social experiences, I think is a really cool idea. And I'm excited to see how well they pull it off. I mean, I don't know how much you got of that, Richard and Joel, from like if you didn't watch the presentation, but
yeah, sorry. I didn't watch the live reveal, but I have watched the trailers and read a lot of the documentation that's come out since. So I'm pretty on the fence about it. I think as you stated, they very much they know they've got the gameplay's perfect, it feels nice. Bungie know how to make a good feeling first-person shooter, so they're sticking with that, and it's just subtle refinement on top of that. And there's been lots of positive talk about the improvements to the single-player campaign, the sort of what's essentially matchmaking for the raids that they're going to do now. So you don't have to have a good regular group of friends or something. You should be able to get involved with the raids. I do want to quibble a little bit on that. I think it's important not to think of what they're doing as matchmaking. I think they're trying to sell it to you as not matchmaking, but I'm interested to see how it actually lands, what it is when it gets. If it is what they are saying, it is a subtle but important difference to matchmaking. I mean, I think it is important that it isn't about like 6 random people trying to do something, because not be the experience that they want players to have. That's essentially what matchmaking is, isn't it? It's about taking people who are looking to play and grouping them together under some set of rules. It just sounds like what they're doing here is they've got matchmaking with a slightly different rule, where rather than saying, well, you've never played the game before, we'll put you with players who've never played the game before, they're like, you've never played the game before, so we'll put you with players who have, because this is what the game needs to succeed. So it's an upsell on what I think is matchmaking. I'll be interested to see how it comes out. One of the other good things they've done. Bastard. I'm not cynical. I've got to see it with my own eyes to see what it really is to make pass final judgment. One of the other real positive things I noticed is that you no longer now have to return to orbit with your fire team to then go and do a mission, which is great. That's going to be a massive improvement. So yeah, it sounds like there's lots of fixes and things. Am I hyped for it? Like I said, I'm on the fence. I don't know. I'll probably will get more excited as the time gets nearer, because I did enjoy Destiny. I tend to find myself playing it in bursts. Really, I will get into it for a month or something and play it quite a lot, and then I won't pick it up again for 3 months. And the DLCs, when they come out, actually kind of accommodate that quite nicely. It gives me a chance to pick it up and play it again and get involved with some new content and things. So I am looking forward to playing it. It's whether or not I hold off for a kind of more Game of the Year edition, much like, you know, Destiny versus Destiny the Taken King and that kind of package. Do I hold off a year and wait for
No. I want to play with you, Joel.
I want to play as well, but yeah, that's kind of where I am in my mind.
Well, my hope is that you won't need to, because it's Luke Smith is the lead designer. He was the lead designer on Taken King, right? And Taken King was easily the best thing that happened with the original Destiny, right? So that gives me hope that Destiny 2 is going to be at that level or higher to start with, right? So everything they've shown with the story and you know, the new worlds look brilliant, right? So they showed off like 4 new big locations, and they looked really cool. One of them was, I think it's the European Dead Zone, which looks like that's going to be the new hub location, right, to replace the tower on Earth. That looks really cool. Io was one of the worlds. I think Titan, which is all covered in, which is just ocean, and then of like constructs and buildings built in the Golden Age, when humanity was spreading and being successful before we got beaten back by the darkness. You know, so there's still a lot that's not been said. One thing I was disappointed, right? When they were doing the class reveal, the new subclass reveal, I was like, just give us a new class. Go on. Give us a 4th class, like a real new class. That people will go insane if you do that. And I feel like they missed out there. If that would have been a really cool thing for them to have gone, you know, Titan, Warlock, Hunter, and something else. You know, that would have been really badass. But it's a shame they didn't do that. But I guess they've got this pyramid of power around those 3. That's what the whole game is kind of designed to work around. So it's kind of difficult for them to add one, I suppose. But
or it'll be DLC.
You know,
original content stripped out, only sold back to you later. That would be.
This is my worry. You said there's 4 new areas. Is that all there is?
4 new worlds.
So is it 4 worlds in total? That's all we get, is it?
See, I don't know. The way they were talking about, we've got a new strike, for example. They kept saying we've got one new strike, and there's a new raid. The way they're talking about that, I feel like Destiny 2 is going to have all the previous content included. The way they kept on touching on it, it just sounded like, you know, making a big deal out of a new strike. But that wouldn't be a big deal if there was only one strike. You know what I mean? So there must be other strikes, right? So is that the previous stuff still be accessible to the? That's curious. That is very curious, and I'm choppy, according to Richard. That's frustrating.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I'll drop the quality down on the video again and see if that helps. Smiley face from Joel. I don't know why you didn't just mention it on the stream. Like, I'm not going to be subtle about this shit. Right. So, final thing I wanted to mention about Destiny, though. This was quite a big deal. BattleNet only on PC. Anybody care?
Is it that big a deal? Activision owned Blizzard. It's a digital distribution platform. It's at least guaranteed to start initially exclusive. Blizzard always do their games exclusively on BattleNet anyway. So, yeah, I don't think it's that big a deal. I'm sure many people will kick up a stink about it and things like that. But there definitely does need to be competition in the digital distribution market on the PC. Steam is a bit of as much as I love Steam, I think it's brilliant. It is a monopoly, but you know, there should be room in there for others as well, just to keep things fresh and exciting, and hopefully help the consumer with prices as well. So,
I mean, the way I always see it, when somebody says we're not going to be on Steam, I always think that, you know, how everybody used to react when it was like, oh, we're going to be on the Windows or Xbox Game Store or whatever like that. Oh my God, it's not on Steam. It's the end of the world. So it's just fucking. So what we're saying is it's typical PC players being a bit fickle.
No, well, maybe there are some genuine things. Obviously, it's not actually called BattleNet anymore, isn't it? It's called like Blizzard app, I think.
They called it BattleNet in the presentation.
Yeah, that was what I picked up on as well. And quite a few other people have mentioned that. Yeah, it's odd that is that sort of them actually, going back to BattleNet as the name now for it. But
more than once they said it as well. It wasn't like a mistake. They brought it up several times in that bit of the presentation.
I think I would have concerns if BattleNet, if it didn't exist and they were like, we're launching a new digital distribution platform and Destiny is going to be the first game, Destiny 2 is going to be the first game that seeds it, I'd be a bit concerned. But it's a well-established platform. It's been around for a long time. I don't think there's much to worry about, really.
Richard, do you care? You don't care. He's switched off. He's playing with himself. He's playing Switch again.
With myself. No, I don't know if I care. I think, like Joel said, I am probably going to wait for the first year.
Oh, for God's... All right, fair enough. I can't fault you guys. I mean, it's sensible from a consumer point of view to at least see what this package is when it comes out. Like the fact that I was just talking about, we don't really know what's in this game yet. And I mean, that's fair, isn't it? I mean, you can't expect them to show everything, before release. I imagine at this point, they don't even know exactly what will be in there. So they have to keep some things close to the chest. But I always tend towards optimistic hype. I guess that's just the nature of me when it comes to video games that I enjoy. But you guys are being more sensible, and I respect that. Well done, you. I will break kayfabe here. How's the audio? Are we okay at the moment?
Yeah, I've told them. Yeah. You had one moment during your Destiny outburst where Google just filtered you, but.
Well, yeah, fair enough. Probably tied into Activision as well somewhere. They've got some kind of weird censoring software. You're not enjoying Destiny, or just kill it. Right, next bit of news. This is a very quick one. The Witcher is going to be adapted into a Netflix show. It sounds like we've not had this confirmed, but it sounds like it's going to be CGI because the studio behind it are the ones that did, amongst other things, the CGI trailers for The Witcher 2 and 3. And it's an adaptation of the book and has nothing at all to do with CD Projekt Red. But however, I'm quite hyped for this. I think it's a really fascinating world with fascinating characters and lots of exciting stuff that they could do with that. I'll watch that show.
I'm excited as well. I think a lot of the other Netflix original content's been excellent. So I think what you've got is a good universe, good characters and stuff with good potential. And I think it's landed in some good hands. So let's see what they come up with.
Richard, you didn't dig into The Witcher, did you?
No.
Rich?
I wanted
You own
to.
it though, don't you?
I
But you
own
never
it.
did. Yeah.
I bought The Witcher 3 at launch and barely played it. So yeah, I'll probably watch this show. I think it'll be it's in good hands, like Joel said. So they normally do good content. So that might be the thing that gets me into the Witcher universe, and then I'll finally play it. How's that?
I doubt it. But it's a nice dream to have, Richard.
Yeah.
It's a lovely dream. Pie in the sky. On slightly sadder news, though I suppose not altogether unsurprising, one of the pieces of information that came out of the EA conference call with the investors that they do, is it a yearly one? Yeah, this would be their yearly one, wouldn't it? Is that they have kind of put Mass Effect on hiatus. They've kind of said that's that after the somewhat soft response, shall we say, to Andromeda. I think the sales were pretty good, but yeah, the critical response, for obvious reasons, which we've covered before, was pretty damning. And they turned the studio, which I believe was, oh God, which BioWare one was it? It was, I can't remember which BioWare studio it is now. Montreal, possibly?
I think it was Montreal. I was going to say that, but
I think it was Montreal. They've kind of turned them into a support studio. So they're no longer working on their own IP or their own product. They're going to be supporting the live service side of Andromeda, but they're going to be, but mostly they're going to be just helping out the other BioWare studios with their so far unannounced big new IP, which has also been delayed into 2018 at the earliest. So
animations and things.
Hope so. Making sure their eyes look really good. Definitely playing to the strengths there of the Andromeda team.
I was certainly curious about. There was a season pass for Andromeda, wasn't there?
No.
I'm not. No, there wasn't.
Nope.
No, there was a special deluxe edition that came with extra multiplayer stuff, I think, wasn't it?
Mostly, I should know. I bought everything that was produced. No, it's curious because once you know, it's interesting because you look back, right? Especially the sort of the last 6 months of development time and how EA was talking about the game, and you can see a shift. You can see they were, because originally they were talking about it as the first part of a trilogy, and then all of a sudden it became a standalone experience in the Mass Effect universe in marketing materials. And you look back and you go, when they talked about DLC, and it's like, yes, of course we're going to have DLC and support it. And then all of a sudden there's no season pass. But there's never been a season pass for a Mass Effect game before, to be fair. So that wasn't that surprising. But yeah, I think the writing was on the wall from quite a few months out that the faith wasn't there at EA. They knew they were dealing with a problem child that had to be birthed at some point, and it wasn't going to necessarily be as good as many hoped. And I'm gutted that there's probably, we've not had a confirmation on this, but there's probably going to be no DLC now, which I'm bummed about. You know, I love Mass Effect, and I would have played, there's some real good story threads left hanging at the end of Andromeda that I would have liked to see explored. So I'm pretty bummed about that, yeah.
Do you think they're just going to reboot it now? Well, not now. Eventually.
Yeah, 5 to 10. I'd give it maybe like next gen. But I don't see anything. Yeah, I don't see anything happening for a long time now. Yeah. They need to give it time to let the negativity disappear and come back at it, I think. If you think about it, if you think about the negativity they had at the end of 3, right?
Yeah.
So they've kind of had a lot of negativity now on the last 2 games of this series, which means if they ever go back to it again, they're going to have to give it some real time.
So the disappointing thing is, though, 3 came out a long time ago. What was it, 2012?
Yeah, it was. It was a good while.
4 years to get this right. Yeah, so yeah, you're probably right. It will be a good 5 years before we see another.
I think what happened was at the end of 3, that studio that was running 3 and Casey Hudson and stuff. Casey Hudson left, obviously, and that studio probably went, we want to do something else, which is why this one got farmed out to a different part of BioWare, who had never actually launched an IP before. And they were a fresh team, new lot of writers, basically a lot of really green developers on that team, and they've tried to do something different, and you can see what they're trying to do, and they're this close. But I think there's technical issues that really do mar the experience with Andromeda, and they're going to get better with patches and stuff. This is why they've kept a live services team on board, I believe. But they're going to give more multiplayer updates and stuff like that, so there'll be new maps for that, I would imagine, and new character classes for multiplayer. But that single player is they're done. I feel at this point, I'd be really surprised if we get any story DLC. Gutted about that, man. Seriously, some of the DLC for Mass Effect games have been excellent, like truly excellent. Leviathan, Citadel come to mind for 3. Shadowbroker 2, absolutely, absolutely fantastic DLC. And we won't be getting probably.
It's probably for the best, though. I mean, if it doesn't live up to what Mass Effect is supposed to be and what people expect of it, then I'd rather they just killed it out right now and just come back when it is ready.
Let's see. They've delayed this new BioWare project again, but I'm the implication from the trailer that was shown either at the last E3 or the one before, I think it was the one before, is that it's not an RPG, a sci-fi RPG, not necessarily a fantasy RPG. It's something different, and if you think about the spaces we get RPGs in, the vast majority are either science fiction or fantasy. So it'd be very exciting to see if BioWare can do something, at the top quality that they produce when it comes to writing and storytelling in a fresh RPG setting. Really exciting. The only one that comes to mind for me really that breaks that mold is Alpha Protocol, if you guys remember that, which was an espionage RPG, which was pretty cool, but had lots of technical problems as well. But yeah, really cool game. So I'm excited to see what that is. Let's see where they go with that. But it's a while off yet. So maybe we'll see it next month. Maybe. I wouldn't be so sure, but maybe. Right, final piece of news. So this is very UK-centric news, but it does sort of need mentioning because it's kind of insane. Game have decided, which is our equivalent in the UK of like a GameStop or
I think, yeah.
EB or whatever in Canada, that what they needed was a new type of loyalty card, one that requires a £36 a year buy-in. £36, and you get 10% back on game purchases, rather than, I think it's like 2% right now, and a couple of other benefits. Not a lot of other benefits, I might add. An undisclosed benefit when it's your birthday, but that could just be an email that says happy birthday, but we don't know. And they've also, a caveat is that if you don't make as much as the cost, £36 back in reward points, they'll refund you the difference in reward credit in a year if you don't do it. Why? How is this a value proposition?
Yeah, when I read it, I just thought this is just ridiculous. Really, this sounds to me like a company that's on the, they've got bankrupt quite a few times and have managed to bring themselves out of administration. This sounds like they're maybe on the cusp of going into administration again, and a desperate last capital grab, basically. Get some money on their books. It's an awful idea, I think, and I would not advise anybody to take the investment in this.
You can save 10% on prices by going to another shop.
Exactly.
By going on Amazon.
Yeah.
That's. I mean, if for example, if you're a Prime member on Amazon, you get £2 in the UK back on new game purchases and pre-order game purchases already, and that works out about 5% if you think about it. So. Just go on Amazon, and the prices are already cheaper on there anyway. I don't particularly like Amazon as a company. They've definitely got some shady shit going on, but the way Game as a brick and mortar retailer treats its customer is just
they're absolutely awful. And there, even if you're not a fan of Amazon, there are plenty of other online retailers who do very good pricing as well. So
yes,
there's choice out there. Yeah, it's good it's important to have a brick and mortar kind of that you can walk to game shop and stuff. But it's their ethos, their sales strategy, everything about them is cool. They don't even play to their strengths of having a store, by allowing you to go in and play the games, or have a coffee, a social environment, that kind of thing. It's just so old, and it deserves to go under in my books.
Old and tired. I'll just never forget the last time we talked about gamers when they were asking you to pay to try PSVR.
Yeah.
That was the last time it came up. Like, what? Like, what? As a strategy, it does seem that the only time you talk about it is when they come up with their next harebrained way of making money out of nothing. Like, literally nothing.
Every idea they have feels patronizing and insulting to its customers, doesn't it? Everything.
And yet, Richard, you bought a PS4 Pro and a PSVR from them, so they're doing something right.
Well, yeah, that's true, but that was much of a muchness, though. I mean, I could have got that from anywhere. It just so happened that was the shop I was standing next to when I had my feeling of whimsy that I was going to buy a VR.
When wasn't that around the time of the US election and
the day after Trump was
very that's it, isn't it? And everything was looking very, very bad.
Well,
and it was
VR.
Yeah, I can't fault you for that. I mean, we all want to escape. Well, Christ, we've got another general election just around the corner. I'd like to escape that to an alternate reality while we're at it as well. That would be nice. But yeah. Anyway, that covers the news for the last couple of weeks. Richard's showing us a thing, and it says focus. What's that?
It's my millions of Lib Dem leaflets that I'm delivering tomorrow. So topical.
Not political. No political partisan stuff on this show. That's for sure. No. None of that. It's all here. No. It does say a lot though, Richard. That when you showed me that, right, I didn't know what it was. Which means perhaps not the best piece of marketing. If you can't tell that it's a Lib Dem flyer the second you see it, then there might not be the best design. Just throwing it out there, just putting it out there.
It probably reads better.
Yeah, go on.
When it's not on a webcam.
Sure.
So if I just don't put this on webcam to all of my neighbours, and just put it in the letterbox,
that's old school.
That'll work better.
Who does that? It's crazy, man. What are you talking about? Who does that? It's mad. I mean, the Tories have it easy because if you need to know if it's a Tory flyer, you just look for the swastikas. So that's easy enough. And Labour's easy as well because you just look for the most ridiculous set of promises on the planet, and you'll know it's Labour. So I mean, I guess the Lib Dems do have the hardest time, like because it's like, well, we're not really on the tuition fees thing anymore. What do people know Lib Dems for? Yellow. Yeah, yellow. Well, yellow, I suppose. So
Joel had a good idea before we started recording. He said these leaflets should be made on Rizzler. So
skin up with them.
Policy.
We're talking about policies. That was a pretty bonkers one to put that on your fucking manifesto. We're going to legalize that. Jesus Christ, guys. Does anybody want to actually look like real opposition right now? Anyone? Hands up? Anyone? No? Okay, moving on. You know, bunch of clowns, a lot of them. But anyway. Anyway,
I don't know how we got onto that.
Well, you showed a flyer, and I wondered what the fuck it was. So it was your subtle form of propaganda, Richard.
Yeah.
That's what did it. So I blame you.
Okay.
Let's talk about video games. Should we start with The Surge? Because I feel like that's the one I did the big review for recently, and you've just started playing it, Richard. I'll give us a very brief overview, and it was an overview I struggled with in a way on the review as well, because the most obvious thing to say about The Surge is that it's a Souls-like game. I.e., it's a third-person action game with very sort of difficult combat that will result in a form of permadeath and usually a heavy penalty, when you die. But also known commonly as a Souls-like. And I mentioned in the review that, obviously, until we came up with the term first-person shooter, first-person shooters were often referred to as Doom clones. Around that era in the 90s, everybody referred to like all those games as Doom clones because Doom was the most popular example of that genre. So, at some point we might get a proper term for a Souls-like, but at the moment that's what The Surge is. And it's a Souls-like in a sci-fi setting in which you play as, I remember this from the review actually, because it was like, guys, you probably could have come up with a better name than Warren. But sure. Warren is the main character, which I think is a pretty funny name, to be honest. I don't know why.
Something like Scott Speedman.
Yeah, Scott Speedman. But ironic because you start off the game in a wheelchair. So it's like Scott Speedman. That would be a perfect name for a guy in a wheelchair. Jesus, that's genius, Rich. God.
That's why I come along to these shows. That's why I'm here.
That's like that doing good.
So
I want to talk. We'll talk about that in a minute. Actually, go on.
I was just going to say. So it's a science fiction. You start off in a wheelchair, and it's not Avatar. This is where are you going with this?
It kind of does have that vibe, doesn't it?
I want to talk to you about that opening in a minute, actually, Rich, because it's right at the beginning of the game. It's not a spoiler, but I want to know how it affected you because it really kind of grabbed my attention. Very, very quickly that you start that game in a wheelchair and then you have the transformation scene, which is one of the most horrific things I have seen in a video game in quite a while. But anyway, let me just finish the overview. So it's a sci-fi Souls-like in which you go around this kind of rundown industrial complex, though there are different elements to it later on, collecting tech scrap, upgrading your character, upgrading your gear, doing difficult combat, combination attacks, different kinds of combat based on the weapons you're carrying. Think Dark Souls. It's not that different. There's not that many differences. However, one of the biggest differences, the big difference I forgot to mention, is that you have this whole focusing on cutting off limbs to gain upgrade materials for your character. So, for example, if the guy you're fighting has a particular kind of weapon that he's using, and you're like, I would quite like to use that weapon, and it's an armored sort of segment on his body, you can target the specific limb, you can do a finishing move once you've built up your finishing meter, which will cut it off, and then you can collect it and take it back to your bonfire, or in this case, sort of healing station or little room, and you can customize it, upgrade it, and put it on yourself. Which is a really cool mechanic, actually, which I kind of wish I mentioned in the review. But it
is quite an important one.
It's a fairly integral part that makes it different from a Dark Souls game, isn't it, Richard? But my excuse was I was fucking dying from the flu at the time. So, there you go. And I'm sticking to it. But, it's really cool. Richard, so what did you think of that opening segment, first of all?
I might be autistic, right? Because I thought, yeah, that's horrific. But my main worry is... should we say what happens to him?
Well, it's the very opening of the game, I don't think it's a spoiler, really. But...
Right, so the Scott Speedman on his wheelchair.
Scott.
He goes down to...
What can we call him? Warren Speedman, actually.
Warren Speedman.
Yeah, he
goes down to this little lab for his induction, this program for something. So what it is, like some sort of war thing, is it? What's it
Well,
for?
no, it's basically evil Facebook. Evil Facebook is a company called Creo, and they've decided to fix the world's problems with chemtrails, I suppose, if you want to really reduce it. So they're launching a bunch of rockets into low Earth orbit with satellites, which are going to affect the environment, and you're basically joining up to be a part of this. You know, it's not necessarily militaristic. However, shit goes sideways, and it's not really spelled out to you what's happened in the game. And I don't want to go into these details because these are spoilers. However, as the game progresses through audio logs, through meeting other characters, you find out what's happened to the world, what's happened at this facility that you're at, and you know what to do about that. So
okay, so leading up to that, then old Warren Speedman is at this place to enroll, and because he's in a wheelchair, I suppose he's not as helpful as he wants to be, and they are good enough to hook him up with a new mechanical suit.
I think it's an exoskeleton, isn't it? Like almost like a cut down version of the power loader from Aliens, or like those mech suit type things from Avatar, but much smaller.
Like in that Call of Duty that had them.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the scene that Ben's talking about is when he gets this suit fitted. It's supposed to be, you know, it's not just putting the suit on, it's a medical procedure that's required. And you get to see a cutscene of Warren having this suit installed. He is supposed to be unconscious when this happens. Unfortunately, a mistake is made and he is not. So you get to see in graphic detail this suit being screwed into his flesh and bone from all over his body, and him being conscious throughout. And while this was happening,
it's uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah, it's really uncomfortable. And all the way through, I was thinking, dude, why have you still got your clothes on? You've ruined your shirt.
The worst thing is, he's going to have to wear that outfit for the rest of his life now.
Exactly. Yeah. So this was my main concern, and that probably does make me autistic, or somewhere on the spectrum. Do you think?
You're mental. We'll just you're mental, son. You're mental. Right. Well, something interesting comes up later on in the game. I don't know if I should say. It's not exactly a spoiler, but the implication is that he's not meant to have been unconscious because other people weren't when it happened to them. So,
right, so they're just trolling him when they say, well, there's like a robot voice says that he is now unconscious, doesn't it?
We don't know. There's some darkness to this company. Put it that way. There's some shit going on. You need to play more. However, you've had a bit of an issue already playing the game, haven't you, Rich? So you want some support?
It opens in typical Dark Souls style. So Dark Souls typically gives you quite a small area to open in, with challenging but doable enemies in quite a localized space, so you can get to grips with how to play and how much risk to take, and not be punished too heavily when you take too big a risk. This is quite good at doing that in the area that you open out in. You come out in this desert on the floor. You've got a few like flying robots that you can take out fairly easily before making your way to a sort of medical station where you can recharge your health, which acts as the bonfire from Dark Souls. Once you heal, all the enemies regenerate. And I'm still pretty much in that tutorial area, which is kind of like a factory, and you can walk through this factory through underground gangways, over the sort of rooftop corridors, and eventually you work your way through to a boss. There's Ben tells me, a tutorial boss, but it doesn't feel much of a tutorial to me. I cannot beat this guy. What do I do?
So, I've not had as much experience with the Dark Souls games as yourself, Rich. However,
not that you'd know it, eh?
I remember these initial experiences in Dark Souls games being actually a lot harsher. That you end up usually facing a big enemy boss very, very quickly, and that's just going to kill you repeatedly. I actually found the onboarding in the Surge a lot friendlier. that there are lots of ads and lesser enemies for you to get the hang of. The thing I found with that boss was take your time and grind a bit. You know, try out various weapons, try out the different armor loadouts, make sure you are cutting the limbs off and taking back the different stuff. I found myself leaning towards the speedier exosuit upgrades and the quicker weapons. So, get in, do a little bit less damage, but hit more often, and then move back and away. Yeah, that first boss is tricky, but once you learn the pattern and stuff, and it's basically a case of just getting in under him, letting the missile barrage disable him, getting your hits, and then just dodging and weaving, son. But yeah, this is interesting. I met
close all the time, is it? Because I think I'm probably getting too far away, and then it's like a big ED209 fella, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
He even says comply on his feet, so it's proper out of RoboCop. But I keep kind of backing away, and he's lunging at me with his big sword thing, and
I did a lot of strafing. I did a lot of side dashing. It's interesting. I died, like I mentioned this in review, I died on him about 30 times. And the thing, I had this plan, right? I was going to be like, I'm going to record the video when I beat this boss. It'd be really good for the review. And I got so involved. I'm swearing at it. I'm getting angry. And when I fucking did it, I got so pumped. I threw the controller away. I was like, yes, yeah. I completely forgot to capture the video. And I was like, fucking dipshit. That would have been a really good video. And I completely forgot. However, because I got so involved with it and just hyped about beating it and stuff. It was really good fun. Hey, Rich, get good. What do you want from me?
That's what I'm going to have to do. Yeah, it feels like quite a spike from the rest of the area that I'm in. I can manage it fairly easily now. But that guy.
What level is your weapon at?
My weapon or my proficiency
Your
in
weapon. The weapon? Well, the proficiency. That is the level of the weapon, yeah.
Because you can upgrade the weapon as well.
You can, but but that doesn't really give you a number.
Right.
The proficiency is the number I'm referring to.
10?
Which one? What were you using? What's your primary?
I'm using the slower one, so you've got this long electrified arm thing, which is effective but quite slow at attack. So that's probably not the best thing to use on this dude. I might.
Not the build I was. Well, I believe I was using a single-handed weapon.
Yeah, like
the blade sword.
Thing.
Yeah. That was it. That was what I think I beat him with, if I remember rightly. However, what's probably the best rig in that early stage is the rig kind of like, so there's like a sword on each arm, which is a very, very fast attack, which you can find in a couple of places in that level. You need to look for enemies that are obviously using it, and then you need to target the arms and take it from them. So there's quite a lot of strategy that goes into that sort of side of the game. Are you asking me as well, when the game later on in the game does it open up? I will say this: the levels get bigger, but you never really get those massive open environment levels like you do in Dark Souls.
So it's all kind of corridory. Okay.
The
problem.
It's the nature of it. Yeah, it's the nature of the environment you're in. There is, it's also, I think, a lot. I really like the art style. I much prefer the kind of the sci-fi setting. There's a lot more color. There's a lot more vibrancy, a lot more variety into the sort of the look of the game compared to a Dark Souls game. It's
something I wanted From Software to do for a while, because they've put out quite a lot of Souls games now, and they've always been kind of along the same theme, haven't they? They've not done a sci-fi one yet, and that would be interesting. And I think this gives an indication of what that would look like. Not that we have to wait for a From Software version of this. I think this does a great job in itself. It certainly manages the aspects of Dark Souls that I enjoy, finding shortcuts, unlocking routes, and cutting out whole areas of the map that you've already cleared that you don't need to go back to again. That feeling of progress that Dark Souls gives you, that is here as well. And it reminds me a lot of Dead Space as well, actually. It feels a lot like that in the strategy of cutting limbs off. Although it's a different result here. You're doing it to get resources, and not so much to take down the enemy as a point of strategy in itself. It's more about what you get out of it in this game, isn't it? But the way that feels, it does remind me of Dead Space, and how
and the body horror as well.
Yeah,
definitely in there. That fit the otherness of it, the confusion of it, the fact that you're really in an environment that should be familiar and welcoming, but it's actually very hostile. It's cool. It definitely has some nice horror elements to it. There's some criticism over there's only like 5 bosses in the game. I think that's a conscious decision, because you'll discover when you do get to the next area that every enemy can kill you incredibly easily. And that until you learn their behaviors and you learn how to counter them and how to deal with them, you will just be destroyed. You will be destroyed again and again and again and again and again. But there is an incredibly satisfying loop, which I've discovered for the first time in this game compared to the Souls games, because I never really got that far, because I always bounced off of them. The satisfying loop of yourself getting better. You can see your improvements when you get through that room, when you beat that guy, when you get to that next section, when you unlock that new shortcut. You really do have a great sense of accomplishment and progress, and I really, really enjoy that. And I'd be playing more. I'd be playing more right now if I wasn't doing other stuff for review as well. But yeah, I find it incredibly compelling. Like I started New Game Plus, and there are multiple New Game Pluses. They stack. So there's a lot of replayability in the Surge. So yeah, it's a really cool, and it's very impressive for like a second game from Deck 13 after Lords of the Fallen. This is basically the second thing they've done, and I think they've done a really good job with it. And I think it fills a really nice hole, because it could be quite a while before you see another Souls game. So it's cool shit. Cool shit. Please head over to Bxb'S for my full review, which misses out important parts, but it's still very positive. So watch that. Richards. No, actually, Joel, because he's been sat there quietly for a while now. You had a amazing experience playing a video game recently as well. You were blown away by it. And look, I know you aren't going to be able to talk about it a great deal because it's so much about the story, but please tell us a little bit about Blackwood Crossing.
Okay, so Blackwood Crossing is made by developer Paper 7, and it's a game that's very narrative heavy. It's very similar to Dear Esther and the Vanishing of Ethan Carter games cut from that kind of cloth. So it's the story of 2 orphans, basically 2 children of orphans, Scarlett and Finn. Scarlett's the older sister and Finn's the younger brother. I imagine Scarlett's kind of in her early teens, 13, 14 years old. They never explicitly say what age they are, and Finn's the younger brother, more around the 8, 9 year old. And it starts off on a train. The train sees you sort of you're playfully playing with your brother a bit, and then the sort of mysterious things happen, and obviously you realize that this isn't so much sort of a real world environment. This is sort of a dream world that you're going through, very Alice in Wonderland style, and it's kind of telling the unfolding story about the relationship of these 2 twins and some of the other roles, other characters that they have in their lives, such as the grandparents, the mum and dad, and boyfriends and kind of and friends and teachers and things. And it kind of explores this kind of emotionally heavy kind of subject matter. I know you can probably imagine the story of 2 orphans growing up. So the eldest, in this case, Scarlett, was old enough to remember her mum and dad. She says that her parents were obviously around for some period of the time, whereas the younger one, Finn, doesn't. So there's already this kind of complexity, I guess, in the relationship with you've got the older sister can remember the parents but doesn't so much want to talk about it, and the other one doesn't know anything so wants to talk about it, wants to know more, and there's conflict there and things. And it explores these kind of subjects that you when you think about being an orphan and you're trying to put yourself in those shoes, you can kind of probably imagine some of the things it goes about. And yeah, it was really there are some very the character animation and dialogue, particularly on Finn, because you play the role of Scarlett, so you don't really see yourself other than reflection and stuff. So it's a bit more, it's more about Finn, and it's very well done. And some of the moments you have, there's one particular moment where you're kind of sitting down, trying to help him make some paint and make these sort of spring wound kind of rubber band butterflies and things, and all these kind of little subtle scenes that you get to in the story that really work well to kind of get you into the story and relating with the character. And yeah, it was exceptionally well done. There are some really heartstring pulling moments, you know, that as I got to the end, it's only a short game. It'll take you somewhere between an hour and 2 hours to probably complete it, get through the whole thing. There's a bit of light puzzling in there, nothing too dramatic though. It is purely basically the narrative and the way the story is delivered and how it unfolds. Yeah, it was a brilliant game. I can't talk too much. I don't want to talk too much about the story because I don't want to ruin key moments and that kind of stuff for you and how things happen. But yeah, it was. I found it a very touching experience. Very surprised. I had. It was genuinely enjoyable. I really liked it.
That's cool.
So, sounds good. If it makes you cry and your review talks about you shedding a tear, it makes you cry within an hour. That is efficiency.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely it was very succinct. It wasn't verbose at all. It was just very finely tuned. It was perfect on the narrative, I thought.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, something that you often is lacking in video games is a good edit, where the creators can, you know, that are superfluous to get down to that core of the story and to actually be. I don't think efficient makes it sound cold. I suppose just cutting all that sort of superfluous bullshit that you often get in video game narratives. You know, every open world game, fucking, you know, we all laud how amazing the narrative for Mass Effect 2 is, but it also doesn't make any fucking sense because it's a, you know, you spend 20 hours pissing about, don't you? You know, when you should be going on the mission straight away. So it's kind of nice to when a game is.
Mass Effect is that it makes you feel awesome, or it makes you feel a lot of things. But narratively, it doesn't make a lot of sense. You're right.
I never fucking cried playing Mass Effect, you know? I mean, that's that. I mean, I think for a game, you know, to elicit strong emotional responses like that, you know, we get pumped, you get hyped, you get, you know, you get excited, you can get, you know, those are quite easy to manipulate a person into feeling. But when, you know, sadness and loss and, you know, those kind of feelings are much, much more difficult. I guess the last one for me was maybe Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. I thought that had a very effective relationship in there that had a very emotional third act twist, which is actually built on using the game mechanic, which is really, really clever. But, you know, others, the walking sims do lend themselves to that great sort of storytelling. You know, the Dear Esther's, the Gone Homes, the games of that nature. You know, in a way, they're trying to do less with the game. They're really just trying to tell a great story. But I love it. I mean, that's fucking, man, that's great that games can do that. And, you know, to me, that's why there is no question. There is no question in the question of are games art? Yes, they are. And that's amazing when they can be that effective. So I definitely want to play it. I definitely want to play Blackwood Crossing. I'm gonna have to give that a go. Because when I looked, because I got the codes before I sent them out to people, and I was looking at trailers of the games to try and work out what they were, because I hadn't heard of them, and I saw that and I went, oh, really cool and amazing and inventive, or it could be a massive pile of hipster wank. Joel can find out, and then I sent it to Joel, and turns out it was thankfully the former rather than the latter.
It would be it'd be nice to have someone else play it and then to sort of discuss it afterwards, just to see if you get a similar experience to me.
No, I'm gonna check it out, definitely. I mean, I'm gonna mention now a game in a similar vein, actually, though a very, very different setting and a very, very different style, and that's Late Shift. Now, Late Shift is a choose your own adventure movie. And it's I'm actually a little bit reluctant, and I mentioned this in review, to even call it a game. Because there isn't really gameplay in Late Shift. There are decision points. And in those decision points, you have multiple choices to pick the sort of course of your story. Now, but Late Shift is
it's an
UK
FMV
set.
movie. It's an FMV game.
I'm going to say what it is. I'm going to say what it is. Don't cut me off. Right. Late Shift is basically, it's a crime thriller set in the UK about a guy, and you know, it actually uses the whole choices milieu as a setting almost, because it's very much the choices are at the forefront of this individual's mind. He's thrown into a situation that he would never normally have experienced, and then you as the player get to decide what he does within it and the effects that then has. Multiple endings, 180 odd different choice points, multiple scenes and different ways of going through it. And yeah, like you said, it's full motion video. And I think the biggest surprise is it's not shit. It's actually got a budget and it's well shot and it looks nice. And, you know, the acting's pretty good. Like for the most part, it's good or above average. It's not like fucking, you know, Hollywood blockbuster level, but it is good. And it's much better than you'd expect. And Richard, you have had experience with the previous game these guys did at Wales Interactive, didn't you?
Yeah,
You played
they did
the Bunker,
which I bought on sale a while ago, not expecting much, but I don't know. I think I had a pang of nostalgia for FMV games. I thought, well, £5, I'll give that a go, and actually enjoyed it more than I thought I would. So what you're saying about this rings true of the Bunker, that it's got high production values. It doesn't feel like there's shoddy sets or anything like you would expect from FMV games back in the 90s. The acting is pretty good from the limited cast that was in it. And it's not really a game. It's just kind of a set piece for taking you along a story that just works. And it's
is the Bunker another? Is it choose your own adventure like this, or was it actually an adventure game like with puzzles?
No, I wouldn't say that they're puzzles, and you're kind of led by the hand. There's not very many options for you to deviate from where it's telling you to go, but it gives you just enough choices that you are kind of in control and you feel invested in it. So
Okay.
you
No,
get
'cause
the
I'd say
impression that this has got more of a interactive element to it.
Well, no, I think almost the opposite, because from what I remember seeing of the Bunker, I think that was more of a like trying to be a bit more like an adventure game, whereas this is not. This is just very much about not necessarily binary choices, not one or two, but sometimes 3 or 4 options. But it is very much just that. There is no control of the player. You know, it's actually made by Wales Interactive and another developer called Control Movie, and this is the whole thing that these guys do at Control Movie. They create these interactive movie experiences. So like I said, it almost reluctant to call it a game because I don't think that's really even what they'd want to call it. And I think, you know, considering how crappy that could be, you know, it's really, really good. I was really surprised how much I enjoyed. Because you can decide, can't you, on the outset? Like it encourages multiple playthroughs, and I did a few. You can play it like, I'm going to do it like I would do it. Like I'm going to respond how I would, like in a Telltale game, the same way. Or you could be like, I'm going to push this in the extreme that direction. Let's be a pacifist that doesn't want to do anything, that doesn't want to take any risks, that wants to be the good guy at all times. Or let's be a fucking psycho and choose to always shoot someone when I get the option. And see what the result of that is. And then, you know, it's quite funny to see how it plays out. I imagine it must have been a really interesting and challenging acting experience for the cast involved, because you have to play in the same scenes with different, you know, slightly different emotional cadences or different character interactions or slightly different dialogue, slightly different outcome, you know. So I bet that must have been fun to try and make. But yeah, it's a different experience. It's a weird experience. I don't know exactly who I'd recommend it to, but if you're looking to try something completely different to pretty much every other game on Xbox, I'd recommend this. The only downside, weirdly, it's got technical problems. Like,
how?
You'd think, well, how would there be issues? But so occasionally you'd make a decision, like, how do you describe this? So it's trying to like load the next scene, and it's like it will desync to the audio, so it suddenly has to go fast forward to catch up with what's being said. Right? This is from what I can tell looking at videos, this is only a problem, at least only a problem on Xbox. I don't know about PlayStation, but the PC version, I guess if you've got a good rig, didn't have this problem. There's also sometimes artifacting and screen tearing issues when you make decisions. There'll sometimes be weird like distortions on the screen after a decision point. And it's a real shame that a game with almost no gameplay that you'd think would just be basically an interactive DVD movie would have technical problems. And that's where I mentioned it in the review, and it definitely lost a star or half a star or something in my mind because of that, because like there shouldn't be problems here, guys. There really shouldn't. You should have optimized this to a point where you didn't have. It's do with probably stitching together the high def video and the audio on the fly as you make these decisions that are against the timer, and therefore maybe it has issues processing them through the system. I don't know. I'm guessing. I don't make video games, but I can't see why there'd be problems, but there are.
There wasn't anything like that on the bunker, which I also played on Xbox. But I wonder if that's because it sounds like there is quite a lot more to do in this game than in the bunker, because the bunker is just one guy. There's no one else there.
Oh, right. Okay.
It doesn't have problems with choosing dialogue or how to interact with anyone else because there is nobody else. So I guess that's a bit easier for them to funnel and iron out any technical issues. But when you've got branching options and possibilities, presumably using the same tech, I wonder if that's just not.
Well, see what they're trying to. I guess what they're trying to do as well in late shift is that they're seamless, right? So the scene there'll be like a brief moment where you get a countdown, and then it goes straight into the next shot and the next scene based on your choice. So it's meant to feel quite video flow to it. So obviously it's having problems stitching those scenes together.
Yeah. Well, if there's like 4 or 5 options and it's got to buffer every single one, hasn't it? Which it probably can't do. The bunker doesn't seem to have that problem because the only buffering is going to room A or going to room B.
The issue is, though, however, that with a game with no gameplay and all you're doing is watching the video, these problems are very apparent.
Oh, yeah,
and you can't help but notice
that's
them.
all you got, and that's got to be right.
Yeah, and it pulls you out of the experience, and it's a shame.
I'm curious. Did you check if anyone else had similar problems, Ben? Any other reviewers looking at the game or anything like that? No,
I don't really think many people were looking at it, to be honest. But no, I didn't really look into it. No. I mean, I can't see why I'd be a outlier. I mean, Xbox One S regularly restarted, that kind of thing. So
yeah, no, it's just it's my bread and butter, video decoding and AV sync and stuff. So yeah, it's just interesting hearing these problems. I won't go into detail there. I was just curious.
Well, feel free to look into it. Maybe you can give them some tips for the next game they're making. Hey guys, have you tried this codec? I don't know. It was an issue, but it wasn't enough to ruin the experience. It just it was frustrating. Anyway, I am going to take a break from talking before my throat falls out of my face. So, Richard, tell us about the Sexy Brutale, which has got a great title.
Sexy Brutale. Before I tell you about the game, when you're reviewing a game called Sexy Brutale, be very careful how you search for screenshots.
Fair enough.
But anyway,
you had some interesting Googles there. Nice. Clear history. The wife might see.
Well, she was with me at the time. It just comes up. You can't search for that with moderate settings. You're going to have to turn them off. So that was a problem. Sexy Brutale is not what you would imagine. Sexy Brutale is the name of a strange casino that is operating from the grounds of an old English mansion somewhere in England. And the idea of the game is viewed from an isometric perspective. You play a fella walking around this mansion and you're kind of observing what's going on. So the customers and the people who work there, they're getting on with their business, or they appear to be at least. And it soon becomes clear that something is amiss. The employees are killing the customers in a litany of creative and macabre ways. And all you can do is observe. You look through keyholes, you listen through walls to hear what people are saying, where their footprints are going, and gradually you build up a picture of the movements in this building, what people are doing and where they're going. And it has a big inspiration in Zelda Majora's Mask, because all of the characters in this game are wearing a mask, each of which imbues them with some kind of power that will become useful later on. But they're all masked. It's kind of a masquerade ball kind of vibe. And again, from Majora's Mask, it has that time element. So when you reach the end of the day, after everyone's been murdered and you've not been able to do anything about it because you're just looking on, the day starts again. So you wake up on the floor and have to watch all of this all over again. And that continues until you find some way of saving these people. You can't interfere directly. You cannot be in the room with any of these people at the same time. If you do that, then they kind of turn into ghost-like figures and chase you. I'm not sure in the story what that's meant to mean, but it's kind of a mechanic to stop you invading the narrative space. They need to be left alone to play out the events that are going to play out. So you just kind of watch what they're doing, work out what you might be able to do to interfere those events. So if someone's going to kill somebody in a room, can you lure them somewhere else, maybe lock them away? Can you change something in the room that means that someone's not going to get electrocuted or burned or stabbed or shot? And it's really clever. So once you've saved one of the guests, it will give you access to their mask, and that will grant you some kind of power. That might be like letting you hear further into the mansion through the walls, so you can get a better idea of who's walking around and what they're up to. There are a series of other powers that I won't go into, but they just let you move around more of the mansion. So for every person that you save, that lets you get to another place, another floor, another series of rooms, and there'll be someone else in those rooms for you to save. So it's really well managed. You would imagine a game of this kind where everything is happening at the same time. The entire game's content overlaps within this short space of time that repeats, but it doesn't become unmanageable. Every area is discrete without being sort of a separate level, if you know what I mean. It's all a consistent space, but you know exactly where you need to be to do the next one. And it kept me gripped right to the very end. And the ending was particularly satisfying. It's got a really great twist at the end as well. So
wow,
in structure and design, it is really impressive. It does have some technical problems though. So for something that should be quite straightforward in my mind as a non-game coder, it's fairly rudimentary 3D graphics. It's nothing out of this world. It looks fine, and it's just an isometric perspective. But every load into a new room comes with significant stutters and a jarring transition. It takes several button presses to walk through a door. It doesn't always connect properly, which is particularly frustrating if you're being chased by one of those ghost fellas. And that's kind of the only downside I found to it. It was a significant one because it's always with you through the entire experience. But if you can get over that, I would encourage you to give it a try.
That sounds amazing.
It's got a real sort of Tim Burton vibe to it.
Yeah,
like art style wise.
Yeah.
It's got like a very everything from the title to the name. To be honest, it feels like kind of like a Double Fine game almost. Like they've gone for a creative concept with an interesting art style. An interesting mechanic with the time manipulation stuff. And all the masks and things like that. It's a really quite unique little game, isn't it? Really creative. I don't know anything about the studio. Do you know anything about the developers? I mean,
it's Tequila Works who did.
Oh, it's Tequila Works, right?
They did Deadlight before this, didn't they?
Yeah.
Which was
a
a
good developer. Yeah, really good.
Reasonably okay 2D platformer with zombies in it. So this feels more inventive than that. As I say, it is heavily inspired by Majora's Mask, but it seems to do enough with it to make it unique. And I really enjoyed it.
Which
we look forward to
your
your review, sir.
Richard. Sorry, I missed it. I didn't know if you said, but which platform are you playing it on? Out of curiosity. Xbox.
If in doubt, Xbox. 9 times out of 10, Xbox. Cool. Yeah. But yeah, I'm glad you're liking it, man. That's cool. It looks like a really different sort of. Yeah, I might give that a go myself.
Yeah.
Right. Knock one out quick here, lads. Just knock one out. Don't mind me. Oh, no, not really. Not like that. I'm going to knock one out, as in quickly. It's the noise I make. Shut up. Don't judge me. Don't judge me, Richard. God. kink shaming. Jesus.
I'm not judging you. I was enjoying it. Carry on.
Right. That's all right. Well, we'll both make our sex noises together. Ah! No, okay, maybe not. What? Why are we doing it? I want to talk about City Skyline. It made sense when I started, but now it just feels weird. You've made me. You've shamed me. Joel's like, what
You think it'd be worse you doing it on your own? I was trying to help you out there, Ben. Sorry.
Well, no, I do appreciate. You can hold my hand next time. How about that? That'd be good.
Right.
City Skylines. I don't want to spend too much time on this because, to be honest, it's an old game. It's been out on PC for like 2 years. However, I'm like a little bit confused as to why people lost their shit over it so much. And basically, I say as much in the review. Joel, you're the only person I can think of. Have you played it at all on PC?
I have played it on the PC. And
can you tell me why people were so fucking hyped for this 2 years ago?
Because this came just after the PC version of SimCity, the new one, the always online one that EA did, the one that the maps were artificially small, all the pre-information that EA had told you about how the traffic and all the management and stuff would work turned out to not actually be the case. And this launched just at the perfect time. It was the city sim that people wanted, basically. And that's why I think it did exceptionally well, basically, because SimCity did badly.
I thought it was something like that because playing this game, and I've played all the city management games, all the SimCities. I've played all the SimCities on various platforms over the years. I play a lot of games like this. I just did planet-based review and stuff like that. I love a good management game. This is fine. It's fine. It's a good port. I'll mention that. I mean, the controls have been, you can tell they've thought about how to lay this out on a controller. You know, lots of radial menus, which is the usual thing now when you get a management game on controller, but it works really well. And you know, the way the city building actually fundamentally works, you zone off of roads, so you're thinking about the layout with the roads sort of, and then the zones, and unlike the cutback management side of the last SimCity game, where they took out all the water management and the power management, that's in here. There's plenty of depth. I wasn't a big fan of how certain buildings are gated behind progress. Don't like that much. But you can actually turn that off, and you can turn off money as well. You won't get achievements, but you can basically play God mode if you want from the outset in this game, which is nice that that's in there because they're aware that some people love that aspect of city builder games. However, it just felt like another one to me. Like, I'm playing this going, there's nothing really new here. I played this in SimCity 3 and 2 even. This is another one of those. And there's weird things that are missing. There's no disasters. There's no earthquakes and stuff, which were a great way of giving yourself a little bit of a challenge. I found when you were playing those types of games, that if everything was going really well, hey, have a fucking tornado, and I'm gonna have to deal with that and what the effect that's had on it. But as a city management game, it is very competent. You've got all the building options you would expect. I just would have liked a little bit more. And I think it's a little bit weird that this game has come out 2 years later than on the PC, and it doesn't have all the expansions the PC version has now. It's also like over 30 quid, which feels expensive for a game that's 2 years old and was an indie hit on PC, and I think might have even been cheaper on PC when it came out. Tell me if I'm wrong, Joel, but
I can't recall how much I paid for it.
It would have been at the most, it would have been around that price point, I suspect. And the fact that they're asking for that much now, I don't normally talk about value, but I just don't necessarily feel that this is doing much new. And I think the fact that it is the only game like that on the console means that they can get away with that price to a degree, and it feels like they're taking advantage a little bit. But if you're in the mood for a management game, I would actually pick Planet-Base over City Skylines on consoles, because I think it's a little bit more interesting. It's a little bit fresher in its concept. And it's interesting, actually, that Paradox Interactive, the developer behind City Skylines, have literally just announced that their next management game, their next city building game, is going to be on Mars. Mm-hmm. So it's like they've gone, you know what? We need to do the sci-fi thing because that's what, to keep it interesting, let's do that. So it just feels a bit dated and a bit lacking in innovation, but it's perfectly fine and it's perfectly solid. And if you're in the mood for that kind of game on console, there literally is nothing better.
I always thought, I agree with everything you said. The only extra thing I think it had on the PC, it was a really good looker, I always thought.
Yeah, you can zoom right in. One big thing that bugged the fuck out of me is that you can't speed up time. That you have to play it at like I guess you can pause it or it goes. Whereas on the PC version, I know they patched it in. It wasn't there at the start, was it? But you can make time go a lot quicker. So when you just want to make some cash to develop the city, you know, so you just need to let it run for a bit, you have to basically just leave it on and walk away. And that's not a fun way to play a game, to be honest. You know, leave it running. But, you know, I found that the pace it went at was just about tolerable. That there was always something I could be doing, but it was a bit of a stretch. You get to bits in the mid game where, you know, you're just looking to develop, you know, waiting for the city because of the progress, because the buildings being gated behind population means that you need to obviously wait. You need to wait for that population to grow. So you basically have to just walk away and let it do its thing for a bit. So that's annoying. The fact that you couldn't speed up time is annoying. Yeah, and there's also it didn't happen to me, hands up, but I've read many reports of save corruption glitches and graphical issues and screen tearing issues. There was a couple of weird text issues I had with the game where, like, you can have districts in this and you name the districts and they would look all garbled and gobbledygooky. And so even though this game's been in development under the Idea Xbox program for quite some time, there is still problems. It still wasn't ready. This is not final in my mind. You're basically buying early access right now. With the amount of glitches that are happening that I'm reading about online. So maybe give it a little bit of time, wait for those patches, then if you're in the mood, pick it up. But if you want management game right now, honestly, Planet Base was awesome. So there we go. City Skylines. Anything you wanted to, well, Joel, before we move on, as a PC player of the original, I mean, was there anything you wanted to ask about the console version?
No, the graphics was the main thing. For me, it was just, it launched in that window. It was a very basically functional city builder. Like you say, there wasn't anything that hadn't been done before. It launched at the right time and it looked pretty. That was what it had going for it, really.
The other thing I've read about a lot of it, it's got a really active mod community on PC.
Yes, I believe it has, yeah.
And there's none of that on the console version. So
I guess it could happen potentially, because obviously Xbox does allow for mods. We know that from Skyrim and things like that. So maybe that's something that will be in the pipeline. Yeah,
this would have been a great game preview game on Xbox. And I don't know why they didn't go for that, considering how well some of those game preview games have been doing. Like Astroneer is already miles better than when I last talked about it. When that first came out, that game is developing at a rate of knots. We Happy Few's really coming along nicely as well, much better than when it first launched. So I feel like this could have spent a year in there, came out 6 months ago, spent a year in game preview, 6 months from now it's finished. You know, that would have been maybe a better setup for this release. So I don't know why they went to, you know, it's not often I'd say early access should have been what they did, but I think that would have worked well with this one. Anyway, Richard, I gave you a game to review. You were very excited about playing. I don't know how much time you've had on it, but I'm curious. Have you played any Yooka-Laylee yet?
I have. Not as much as I want to. I've put maybe an hour and a half in. And so far, I don't know whether I like it or not. It's weird. So it feels exactly like it's supposed to. Yooka-Laylee, for anyone who doesn't know, is from Playtonic. It was a kickstarted game and people were interested because Playtonic is made up of ex-Rare staff who made Banjo-Kazooie. You may see the link in the name convention. This is pretty much exactly Banjo-Kazooie with reskin characters and new areas, and it's on newer consoles. But it's very, very unashamed of its heritage. It feels exactly like the old Rare 3D platformers back in the day. Even down to what you do in the games, it hasn't really evolved beyond those older games. You run around in a 3D environment, you encounter weird cartoon characters that are just sort of in abstract environments without any real context other than they've got big eyes and they're in a Rare game, so that makes sense, I guess. But that's pretty much what you get. You encounter these weird characters. They say, I need a thing, go get the thing. So you get the thing. Sometimes there are 3 things. and you get the 3 things. And that's pretty much what Yooka-Laylee is. So yeah, it's
Cool.
exactly what I expected. I can't really complain. That's what it's supposed to be, and it does that fairly well. I have heard, although I've not got that far into it myself, that once you get past the first couple of areas, it does start to repeat itself, which somewhat breaks the spell, because these games are always a repetition of content anyway. They are sort of collectathons, masked only by interesting characters that make it appear that it's something else. And I think that some of the content here is supposed to repeat itself in later levels, so it may get a little bit boring. But yeah, it's fine so far. It just feels a little bit, well, as it would, a little bit unwieldy. The camera feels oddly loose and swings around you too quickly, and you can't quite line up your jumps as accurately as you want because the camera doesn't feel right. But that's entirely authentic, I suppose. So anyone that is just drowning in nostalgia for this sort of thing, this is kind of what you'd expect from it. But that not, I suppose the key thing to think about is don't, what's the phrase? Be careful what you ask for, because you might just get it.
The meal is the meal.
Yeah.
I was going to throw to Joel because obviously he kickstarted this. Joel, how much time have you put into it?
I haven't played any because I'm. If you remember last time we talked about it, I told you that I've got this great association, I guess, with Banjo-Kazooie and some of the happiest memories from my childhood of playing it with a friend and things. And
so you're still sat on it waiting?
Yeah, well, I'm still sat on it waiting just to organise the time to go and visit my good friend Mark down in Warwick and get together, and we're going to jam through it, like do an all-nighter, get some beer and some Coke and some crisps and some like chocolate mini rolls and Haribo and that kind of thing, and just binge our way through it, just like we did when we were kids. So
Coca-Cola listeners.
Yeah. And good point. And so I haven't played it yet. So, but yeah, like I'm very much want to go on that nostalgia trip. So that's very much what I'm expecting. Rich has described almost exactly. It's sounding perfect to me. I can't wait.
It's strange the amount of parallels I was hearing from his description of Yooka-Laylee to my description of City Skylines. Like, it's exactly what you expected. It does what you expect to do it. And, it's just like, that's not bad, but it's not exciting either. And it's just like, or innovative or particularly interesting. So it's just sort of like, it's such a weird thing, this nostalgia thing in all media. That, I was talking about it earlier with Triple X, and he's talking about it with Yooka-Laylee. It's this trend. It's this trend at the moment just to capitalize on things we loved when we were kids, because we've got to this age now, and we're the ones making it. The 30-year-old guys are the ones making, and girls are the ones making this media now. And it's like, and it's just stuff we liked when we were children, and it's fucking shit. So,
well, we've done.
Yeah, I just think it's so peculiar that there's this lack of innovation, but there isn't. We see that as well. But it just seems quite prevalent, these things that are just trading on nostalgia. But again, I'll be curious to see your review, Richard, for that, and what angle you come at it, and how you sum it up when you're done and stuff, and how it sits with you. I'll be very curious indeed.
So will I. I really don't know which way I'm going with it at the moment. So, I kind of like it. It's exactly what I wanted, but enough.
Segue straight into what Joel's been playing, because he's playing Wonderboy: The Dragon's Trap, which is basically a remake, or is it a freshened up version of a game that did it get released, that Wonderboy, or was it a case?
Yeah, so I haven't gone through the whole history of it, but this isn't a remake; it's a sequel, I guess. Yeah, a continuation of some. I know there's one originally on the Master System. I don't know what other platforms it may have been out, but that takes you quite a way back. So yeah, Wonderboy: The Dragon's Trap. It's developed by a company called Lucid. It's basically it's a platform adventure game kind of thing. You play this little guy, guy or a girl you can pick, and for the very start you defeat this massive dragon, and he puts a curse on you. The initial curse is that you're turned into a lizard, And then beyond that, your quest around this like kind of world becomes trying to cure yourself, which sees you go from being a lizard to a mouse, and I'm currently up to now being a fish. So you have these different characters that you different class characters that you transform into per se, and that each has a different ability. So the mouse, for example, can stick to certain types of walls, and the fish can swim underwater. So all characters can go underwater. It's just the swim can fish, which opens up other areas. And it's kind of it's set in this kind of like there's a little village that's the hub world, and it spans out from there in a kind of crazy sort of Metroid-y style exploration way. And yeah, this is just how the game kind of plays out. So I haven't got that far with it so far. I'm probably about halfway through the game. And I'm actually a little stuck in the game at the moment. I've been meaning to try and get myself a bit unstuck with it, but the one annoyance I have is that you cannot change the character on demand. You have to visit these specific places which allow you to change, switch between the mouse or the fish, basically. And so, yeah, I've seemed to have got myself stuck, and I'm not sure if I've got myself stuck because I've managed to switch to a character type and then get out of this place when I shouldn't have. It's what it feels like, or if I've just not explored every last nook and cranny. It's a bit difficult. There's no map to like you would get with a Metroid game, to help me see where I've been and where other areas that could be that I haven't explored yet. So that's kind of missing that aspect for me. And yeah, so far I'm kind of on the fence about it. It's kind of bits of it are quite fun. It's a bit entertaining. It is certainly a bit nostalgic, but other parts of it are a bit quite a bit crap. And some of the enemies are just like awful. I think with the way that they've been placed and things. So there's one enemy that specifically annoys me. He's basically like Lakitu, the cloud guy from the Mario platform game. So he's this little cloud that goes across the top of you and every now and again drops a little fireball, except this thing does it like almost semi-automatic. So rather than just sort of pacingly dropping one item every couple of seconds, he's just like just dropping them on you. And it's really freaking irritating because you can't shoot up. There is one special item you get that allows you to shoot up, but you have to collect them, and then you're limited to how many you have and things. And it's just a right ball ache. And then that coupled with the other enemies around, I just seem to be getting hit all the time. It's quite frustrating. But yeah, so far, yeah, it's like I say, it's a mixed experience. There have been some entertaining parts. There have been some frustrating parts. Yeah.
There's a reason I don't play a lot of classic 2D platformers, because I suck at them, and B, I didn't have that nostalgia. I didn't have that thing growing up where that's where playing those games. I miss that whole kind of era of video games. You go back and change that now. Kind of wish I could, but so it's difficult for me to get excited about these types of games. But hey man, again, I look forward to seeing your words upon this, because another nostalgia trip. So Richard, you said this is a reskin of a game that did come out.
Yeah, it's it is a Master System game. It was Wonderboy 3: The Dragon's Trap, I believe, when it came out on Master System. And as I understand it, the game itself is exactly the same as that. And it's one of the first games to do that Metroidvania type thing where you can turn into different things with different skills, which might explain why it's a bit primitive and broken in areas, because they haven't improved it since then. It is the game that came out back in the 1980s.
What a weird thing.
1989, I've just got the page up.
So a developer has gone and either licensed this from the creator, or it's the same people, and they've gone, rather than making a new one, we're just going to go through this classic game, make it look nice, and put it back out again. That's a really odd thing to do.
It's probably worth pointing out.
I think they are doing a new one. I've got a feeling they're doing a new one, and this is kind of a precursor to
right.
Wonderboy.
That would make sense.
So it's worth pointing out as well. One thing I forgot to mention is that it has this very similar to like Halo Combat, the Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary Edition, where you could switch between the old engine and the new. So you can switch between these kind of 8-bit graphics and this nice, very nicely drawn modern art style. But you could also do it with the audio as well. So you can switch between a kind of nice current soundtrack to something like 8-bitty, if that's what you fancy.
I was going to ask you how it sounded. because I was going to use that as a segue into what will be our first, I suppose, our first kind of like supported hardware review. Because randomly in this, like the last couple of weeks, I got sent a pair of high-end gaming headphones to review for the site.
Nice.
So that's a thing. These are the Lucid Sound LS30s. Now, the reason you might have heard of Lucid Sound recently is because they've just announced they're going to be making the first sort of like natively supported wireless headphones for the Xbox One, so that you don't need a dongle or anything, and it will connect automatically with the system, and it's going to be future proof for the Scorpio as well. These, however, don't do that. I might add, these do have a weird dongle, and it's a bit of a rigmarole. You have to connect the dongle to a USB port on the system, and then you have to use optical to connect that to the optical port. But once that's all connected, you know, I'm going to have the interesting challenge of reviewing headphones, which I've not done before. So I'm looking up words like warm and bassy and
tinny
and tinny and things like that to try and think of words. But, you know, I'm a bit of an audiophile. The wife hates it. I'm always fucking buying headphones. So this has actually come. Weirdly, like 3 weeks ago, I just bought a pair of headphones to use on the Xbox Ones, but they weren't wireless. So I will give a bit of an insight now. It's nicely padded along the top here, and there's lots of padding on the eary bits, which is nice. The one thing I do really like, which is really cool, volume control. I like on the caps here of the headphones. It's actually a big dial.
Oh,
so that's
cool.
how you
Much
change
better
the volume. You got volume. Yeah, really, really cool. So you got volume on one side, and then the other side, that's the mic gain volume as well. So you can mix just by turning them on your head, like as it were. They've got 3 different EQ presets. They're chargeable, and to be honest, I've been using these solidly for the last 2 weeks, right? While I've been reviewing Prey and Injustice and The Surge, and I haven't had to charge them once. So clearly the battery is good. Like, it's really, really good to charge on these. And yeah, I'm going to go into more detail probably when I do the review, but yeah, they sound really good. And the fact that Xbox One has now got the virtual surround sound support for stereo headphones, it's doing some very nice things with the audio, and I can immediately tell the difference compared to the cheap set headphone I got and stuff like that. This is their mid-range set at the moment. There is a set that's better than this supposedly, but I don't know how. And there is a cheaper one as well. The only downside though is that you still have to plug them into the controller for the mic, and that's just a problem with the Xbox One in general. That every headset has to do that. Which is a bit of a bummer because it just means they are wired, but you know they're amplified and stuff like that as well, so that the quality, and I have to say the comfort has been exceptional. Like, I often struggle from over-the-air headsets being uncomfortable. I get pain usually on the top of the head and stuff like that, but the way they hold quite firm but not too firm offers a really good support. So yeah, so far really positive.
I couldn't see a mic on it. Has it got a mic on there too?
It's detachable.
Oh,
it's a detachable mic. And it also has, this is cool, it has a built-in mic, right? So what it can do is it can pick up on the surrounding audio, so that if your wife's shouting for you, like, oh, dinner's ready, it will actually, through the headphones, without any lag. So it will be like immediate one-to-one feedback. So they'd actually probably be quite good for what I'm using them for right now. They're compatible with Xbox One, 360, PS4, PS3, and mobiles, I believe. So they do all kinds. I imagine it would work with a PC as well, but I haven't tried that.
How much do they cost, Ben?
I believe they retail at £100, which is quite reasonable.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, not too bad. The guys behind the Triton. Yeah, they from behind they spun off, set up a new company, Lucid Sound. Yeah, enjoying them a lot so far. Really good. I mean, it makes the game I'm about to talk about even more atmospheric. Warning, this is the segment of the podcast where I monologue probably till the end, basically, as I try and catch up on all the video games I've been playing. So first of all, I've been playing Prey. Now, last week, 2 weeks ago, we all talked about the Prey demo, didn't we? And I joked about how I'd probably end up buying this, even though I really didn't like Dishonored 2. And I probably wasn't going to like this. Well, I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm enjoying Prey so much more than I enjoyed Dishonored 2. It's probably got a lot to do with the setting, and it's so much more interesting than that sort of diesel punk bullshit that you get in the Dishonored series, which I find quite annoying. And the fact that you're so overpowered, I think, in the Dishonored games, I actually quite like feeling vulnerable in Prey. It certainly really leans into the sci-fi horror aspects of the game. And they're actually just patched. We were talking about that annoying audio cue problem.
Yeah.
They've just patched the audio mix in the game so that it's not as jarring and stuff when you get the jumpy bits, as it were.
Explain that for anyone that didn't hear what we were talking about last time. Has this
fucking listen to the previous show then.
Well, let's help those guys out. So there's this weird thing where when an enemy appears, it will start playing sort of canned music that goes on for quite some time. And sometimes you don't know that an enemy has spawned. You can't see them because of the nature of the game. The enemies hide most of the time. So music will just cut in. You don't know why it's there. It freaks you out, lasts for ages, and is annoying. So they fixed that a bit, have they?
Yes, I believe so. It definitely doesn't seem as jarring as it did in the demo. I will point out as well that I am reviewing this. I was sent the pre-order code as well. So I got a shotgun early on, where I know if you don't get that pre-order shotgun, that's not necessarily available immediately in the game, which would affect, I think, those earlier encounters quite a bit, because my boomstick is my best friend, because I've already upgraded it quite a bit with weapon kits, and basically as soon as an enemy jumps at me, I'm like, ah! Fire the shotgun off a couple of times, and deals with them, because there's a lot of scary bits in this game. I tell you what, you don't get to do in the demo, but it's really cool, is there's zero-G stuff in this game. Quite a lot of stuff exploring the outside of the space station, and the mobility and how you maneuver in that, and it feels really authentic. There's a great weight to it, and there's a great sense of momentum, jump jets to like control things in quite precise ways, but there's a real sense of momentum in space because there was zero gravity and stuff like that, and that feels really, really cool. And it's also a whole nother level of sort of tension and fear comes from that kind of isolated zero-G environment. You don't know where the enemies can kind of come from. They can come from any angle and stuff, and a bit reminiscent of the space suit stuff, I think, in Dead Space.
We had some zero-G sections.
Yeah, it's really cool, man. I'm enjoying Prey a lot more than I thought I would, seriously, at this point. I need to put some more time into it, but I'm having to sort of split my time between this and the other game I'm playing for review at the moment, which probably won't require as much playtime. However, I want to play it a lot more than I probably need to, and that's Injustice 2. Injustice 2 is the best fighting game I've perhaps ever played. So that's where I'm going with that. It is an incredible value proposition. The amount of content in Injustice 2 is incredible. It's stunning. There are single player modes on single player modes. There's couch multiplayer and online modes. There's just so much to do in this game. First of all, you've got the best fighting game story yet. Like, I know the bar's quite low on that.
I was going to say, that's...
Don't get me wrong. But NetherRealm have already set the bar, above with their previous story modes. Like Injustice was very good. Mortal Kombat X's was very good. This is better than those. This is fantastic. It gets the comic book sensibilities of the world perfectly. It makes the fucking Zack Snyderverse look like it was a bunch of amateurs. Like it's so much better than the films. So much better. It's fun. It's engaging. But more fun than that is this multiverse mode. Now, the tower modes from Mortal Kombat X, guys? You remember those? The fighting towers where you'd fight your way through enemies?
I didn't play it.
All right, fair enough. Okay, well, that was the thing in Mortal Kombat X. In this, they've kind of taken that, but they've put more of a story wrapper around it with the idea of the multiverse in the DC universe. And you guys know about this? Anything at all? No. So basically, in the DC universe, there's like infinite alternative realities, right? And in these alternative realities, there's infinite iterations of all the characters you know and love. Right, so there's millions of different types of Batman and of all the DC characters. Now that's implemented in multiverse by giving you this not overblown kind of little story framing device for the things in the fights you then have to do. There's different modifiers. There'll be different enemy sets. There'll be different, like you'll sometimes do a fight series of 5 enemies or 8 enemies or 12 or 2. Sometimes there'll be boss enemies that you have to fight, and then all of the things you do in this game, everything is incentivized with this new loot system. And the loot system is gear that you can then apply to the characters, which will actually affect their abilities in the fighting game, like in strength abilities, agility abilities, defense, health. It could actually modify experience gain. It can modify all kinds of things. Now, all that loot will then plays, obviously in single player, that's fine. You do what you like, but it also comes over across into player matches in multiplayer. And then in ranked,
that sounds messy.
It can be exciting though, because you have a lot of freedom as to who you want to match up with in this game. There's a couple of different ways. You can just have a quick match, and it will just match you with somebody that at a relatively similar skill level, which you can accept or not. Or you can go and sit in a public room in which you can see all the different players in there, and they can approach you. Hey, do you want to play? Or you can approach them for the different types of game types that are available in the online multiplayer. This game, like I said earlier, it's got modes upon modes. So just go couch multiplayer. So you got like tournaments you can do with people. You can do, normal versus matches. But there's this whole kind of how do you even describe this? This AI-driven matchup thing where you can build a defending team of players of 3 different DC heroes and villains that can go up against another team, from somebody else's made. So it's asynchronous, but you don't even fight in this. You just watch the fight happen, and it decides on the winners and the losers based on the stats of the fighters that you've put into it. And that all results in more loot. And there's just loot always coming. There's always more gear to unlock, always more boxes to open. And that makes it a really rewarding experience. They've looked at the Overwatch success. They've looked at how Halo reinvigorated itself with microtransactions. And they've done this thing where it's like you never feel that you need to buy these with real money. You are constantly getting this stuff for free. And it just makes it a very engaging experience it's sticky. It makes you want to have one more game. It makes you want to level up that character of yours, because when you get to level 6, you've got a piece of wicked fucking gear ready to put on him. Makes you want to engage with it. It's really cool.
For fighting games, they're typically multiplayer focused, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't find time to learn fighting games properly anymore. So for me, it's a complete waste of time. So if this has got lots of content that you can pretty much pile through on your own and it's still satisfying, that sounds like
never has a fighting game.
Because nothing else does that.
No, never has a fighting game been so aware of its casual audience. It's looked at the fact that, hey, fighting games appeal to a lot of people, but a lot of people then put off by that difficulty spike when they go and play competitively. And they've gone, here's a fucking cool story mode, hours of fun to be had there, and here's all this multiverse stuff, and here's this kind of AI enabled team fighting stuff, and all these cool loot and stuff that will engage you and make it fun. For a guy like me, I'm not good at fighting games, but you can button mash and have a great time, pull off crazy moves. They've got these awesome finishing moves in the game as well. The fighting feels itself really good. And it's like, yeah, you can dig into each character, pick your main, learn him, become excellent as fighting at, say, as Blue Beetle. Or you can just look at the 5 special moves when you hit pause that they often share a similar language between each character, so left, right, A, or down, right, X, that will often result in a good move for every character, but it will be a different move, and it's just pick up and play. It's easy, it's fun. I just want to spend so much time playing this game because you'll always get loot that'll be a little bit higher than the level you're at. So you want to then play that character a bit more to get that piece of epic loot equipped to give you the benefits, so that you can play a bit more to get the next piece of epic loot. And they get the loop. They understand it. And it's fucking awesome. Really good. It's the best modern fighting game I've played. Like, seriously. Hands down. Excellent game. Excellent.
That probably pegs it more for the casual player, though, because you're not...
But
that's not a slight on it.
You're right. But there is also the depth is there. NetherRealm knows how to make a competitive fighting game, and there will be a big competitive scene for this at Evo. I can fucking guarantee it, because you can turn off all the loot benefits and you can just play with the basic characters. You can have it so that they just have cosmetic effects, the loot, and turn off all the stat bonuses. So you're just playing in ranked with those base settings. So everybody's level playing field. So that'll still be a big part of the scene. But for people like me and you and Joel, who just want to go and play with their favorite fucking DC character, evil Superman against good guy Batman, it's going to be fun. It's fucking hilarious. It's brilliant. It's so much fun. It's really, 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 really good. Really, really good.
Yeah.
Deep breath. There'll be full reviews of Injustice 2 and Prey coming soon, I promise, in the next few days. So what's next? I think we should finish off. I think we should finish off on Forza Horizon 3 Hot Wheels.
Okay.
Because it's, unless anybody wants to drive, I don't mind it's going a bit long, but that game is joy. That's all the only word I have for it, Richard. It's joy. It's joy the game. It's just happiness. You know, you're bombing around at 200 miles an hour to really fucking cool music on badass Hot Wheels tracks. You know, it's like going on the best holiday ever. It's just joy. It's just amazing.
It is cool. Are you getting a little bit bored of it too quickly though? Because all the tracks, and it's a weird thing to say because the tracks are so out there. They should not be boring, but they are all just orange bits of road. You know? Do you know what I mean?
I do.
A bit samey, doesn't it? At least visually.
I think you've played. I think it's. Forza is a game I will pick up, spend half an hour on between other games that I'm reviewing. You know, that I'll just I want to chill out. I want to listen to some. I want to get in a fucking awesome car. You know, get in one of the new Porsche cars from the expansion that just came out for that or something, and just not necessarily do the Hot Wheels stuff because I'll go to Blizzard Mountain. I'll go back to Australia, the mainland. I'll do some of this, do some of that. I just think now as a whole package, it's just unparalleled in the racing genre. Like, amazing value. Just a fantastic game.
Yeah, I agree. As a complete package, I mean, if you look at the Hot Wheels expansion as an expansion and kind of a nice diversion from the rest of the content, it's absolutely spot on. It's inspired that they thought that far outside of what Forza normally is and built something that works and is fun and interesting. Doesn't feel silly. Really well pitched bit of content.
They don't. It's not like the characters try to justify it, is it? No. It's not like you know, Kira when she's talking to you about it. It's like, oh well, we did this thing, and that's how I've made it happen. It's just like, no, it's Hot Wheels. It's insane. And they know it's bonkers, and the word I have is it's joy. It's just like racing games for me are a great way. You know, they're very much on the different ends of the spectrum. Like you can go everywhere from sim, with F1 2016 all the way back to Forza. And by the way, Joel, are you excited for F1 2017? Because I am. I can't wait to play as those classic cars. It's gonna be so good. But V8s, baby. But back on the other end of the spectrum, Forza is just happy place. Happy place. That's all I can say. I will ask you though before we wrap up, Richard. Did you find a happy place in Aaero like I did as well? Because game.
Oh, it's dead good. Why has no one done this more recently? I think I mentioned it when you reviewed it. I talked a little bit about Guitar Man, which had a similar kind of mechanic in that it's a music rhythm game that doesn't just have you pushing buttons. It requires much more finessed inputs via analog sticks, and you feel much more involved in the music as a result. And it's more skillful. It feels kind of like playing an instrument in a way, doesn't it?
It does. You're learning something new, but at the same time, something that makes complete sense. And I will mention this, Richard, that the developer listened to the podcast where you name checked Guitar Man. He was very happy because it was one of his favorite rhythm games. He told me.
Yeah, you showed me the email.
Yeah. So he was pretty pumped about that. But hopefully he's listening this time as well. And I know they're having visibility problems on this game, and this game, like, it's so fucking good. It's such a cool idea, and it's done so
really
damn
polished
well.
as well. It's not just a good idea; it's surprisingly well polished.
Yep.
I mean, to the level that you think Wipeout levels of clean UI. It's really.
Oh yeah, that menu design is beautiful. Yeah, absolutely stunning. It's kind of the thing where it's made me look up the music as well, and
Yeah.
you know, get it on iTunes and stuff like that, just because, or Spotify or whatever, and just because it's a really good selection of electronica and stuff. Really, really, really cool. I just hope it does well enough that they can, you know, move forward with whatever's next. You know, I'd like to see just more of it personally, but you know, it'd be cool to see. You know, it's always good that indies can pivot and do different stuff, like, you know, Sexy Brutale compared to fucking Deadlight. You know, you couldn't really get much more different, could you? So that's the cool thing about independent developers. But yeah, it's such a good game. Joel, before we sign off, did you want to touch on the other games you've been playing? Or
Well, I can do in this episode's edition of like Late to the Party. I've finally got round to playing. Well, firstly, I'll touch on Mr. Shifty, because everyone else has played that, and I bought it last week. I bought it on the Switch based on the conversations we've all been having, and yeah, it's a genuinely fantastically fun game.
Good,
I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, I'm just about level 10 now, so just got to the level where just the level where basically they've got rocket launchers, you can catch the projectiles and throw them back. But yeah, it's just fun. It feels great fun, and it reminds me of when I first played Arkham Asylum and just playing Batman, and it was the first game that truly made me feel like Batman kind of thing. I was like, yes, this feels amazing, and it has that great, amazing feeling. You know, it's challenging, but at the same time, it's just satisfying.
That's an interesting parallel, actually. It does feel that like those Batman games, in its sort of staccato, impactful punches, doesn't it? Everything's very deliberate and measured and timed just right. It feels like it's got real heft behind every blow.
It's extremely satisfying. I do love it, and and then I love it when you get to the end of the level and it's just like you died 13 times, and I'm just like, oh wow, that's less than I thought. I thought I died loads, kind of thing. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And oh, sorry, Ben, do you want to jump in?
I was gonna say, I'm sad I lost access to play that game because I ended up formatting my laptop in the last 2 weeks, so I haven't really installed any of my PC games. But I should get on that just to play more Mr. Shifty. That game is so good. So good.
Yeah, it's good on the Switch. It does have a frame rate drops slightly at some of the more hectic times, but it doesn't really.
It's not terrible, is it?
No. It's a minor nuisance. The game's still fine. It's still.
Think of the rumble.
Yeah, no, it's nice. It's a nice little. It just adds that extra satisfaction to the punch, doesn't it?
Yeah. Whatever. Fucking special rumble.
Yeah, and then the other game that I've finally got round to playing basically has been The Witness. So this has been one I've wanted to play for quite a long time. It's kind of mind-bending, infuriating, rewarding. It's the whole world, everything, every subtle detail feels important. Like it has a role in the game and things, and even. Yeah, I don't know. There are certain aspects. So on the positive side, yeah, it's great. It's mind-bending. It's incredibly satisfying figuring out some of these puzzles and stuff. On the downside, it does kind of make me feel quite stupid at times. And
that's your fault. It's not the game.
No, some of it's all based around the concept of these puzzles about drawing lines and things, and then there are different mechanics thrown in to change the rules and stuff. And some of these different mechanics, I think, are a little. Some of them you only use for a short period of time, so you play with it. It builds up to a tough puzzle, and you kind of solve it. Some of them go on a little longer than they need to, I think. And yeah, my only downside is I played it. I think I've virtually completed the game now. I think I've activated all the lasers, and literally I'm just trying to solve the puzzle on top of the mountain. But yeah, I'm kind of getting a bit tired of it now. It's beautiful, it's stunning, it's great, but yeah, it's kind of, I feel like it's gone on a little too far. Does that make sense? Anyone else similar feelings?
I finished it. I didn't quite do every single puzzle because annoyingly, when you do finish it, I think it undoes your progress and you've got to start all over again. So if you're going to do the final mountain puzzle, be sure that you're finished with the rest before you do it. But yeah, I didn't feel that it outstayed its welcome. I mean, it's not as efficient in doing what it does as Braid was, the other game from
Jonathan Blow.
But I feel like it all needs to be there, because every puzzle builds logically from something quite simple up to something quite complex. All of those elements mix, so inevitably that spirals into quite a mishmash of different disciplines of puzzle across the island. And he certainly fills the space, doesn't he? It's quite a big island, but there's always something there to do in every place that you go. So yeah, I didn't feel like there was too much of it. Like Zelda, I suppose, like Zelda in a way. The latest Zelda, it's open world, and there's something to do in every portion of the map, and that's good. Not every game has to be brief.
I had to. I will confess, I had to. So far, I've had to look online twice for 2 solutions to 2 of the puzzles. Yeah, I know. I thought it's worth confessing up. The first one wasn't so much a solution to the puzzle. It's just like there's some puzzles. It's got this kind of Y symbol, and it's like an upside down Y symbol. And I went through the whole tutorial, and I thought I understood what it actually meant. And then I got to the very final puzzle of that set, and it was clear that what I thought that meant didn't actually mean that. And I played back through the tutorial again. I just couldn't get it in my head. So I had to go online to figure out what the fuck it actually, what should I be interpreting this to mean? And as soon as I read that online, it's like, aha, I understand it completely now. And that made sense. And I played on. And then the other one was there's some puzzles that relies on audio cues, except this specific variant of it was in a soundproof room. And I was just stood there going, like, kind of explored a bit, figured it out, and I just thought, no, this is I'll just skip this one. So but I don't think I will bother. There seems to be stuff all over the place, like I don't know how much of it is kind of periphery just to challenge you, how much of it will reveal even more of story and things like that. I don't know. There seems to be loads to do. I think I can complete the game, but I imagine there's quite a few different endings, but I don't think I'm going to play it all the way through to see every possible ending. I think I'm just going to kind of draw my line and say, yep, I'm satisfied that I've done really well with this, and then just complete the game.
I'm not sure there are different endings. At least I've not seen any. I've seen the one that I got, and like I say, it undoes everything that you do. So there's not any opportunity for me to go back and experiment without just starting from the beginning. But I think it's one of those where if you had your fill of it, go to the end and do it. I didn't have to cheat on anything except in that final mountain. There is one puzzle that I had to look up and still didn't understand it even after I'd found the solution. So look forward to that one.
I think I know the one you mean already. The door in the mountain just under the thing where, yeah, the lines only seem to draw for a certain distance for some reason, but it's never explained.
It's a room with 2 lines in the floor and a big metal door at the end, and they kind of mirror each other.
Oh, maybe I've not got that far. Yeah, I'm just like, I thought I'd got all the lessons and stuff, and then I've kind of just uncovered all the environmental puzzles, the black totems and things, and I'm just not even sure if I want to go all the way with the black totems, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'm not.
I did that.
Certainly a question I always ask myself. Yeah, do I go all the way with the black totem, or only take half of it? I just don't know. It's shamefully in my pile of shame. I have yet to even start the witness. I own it, I think, on 2 platforms now. But yet to commit to that. And I know I should. That Abzu, God, that's terrible. I need to play Abzu. But yeah, I think that takes us to the end of this week's podcast. And look, this is how many games we had to talk about. There's 2 on my list, another on Rich's. We haven't even mentioned. We'll have to save them for next time, which is just like so many games. So what should be a quiet time of year, it's just goes crazy, doesn't it, sometimes? But, E3 is coming up rapidly. I think middle of next month. So I think we're less than a month away now from E3. So that's going to be a hectic time. And we'll talk about that probably a little bit more on the next podcast. But yeah, that's the end of episode 26, our 1-year anniversary, guys. It's like 1-year podcast. Woo. Here's to another 10. No, I'm not being ambitious there, am I, guys? 10 more years? Yeah? Hashtag?
Yeah, I'll be dead by then.
Yeah, you will. We'll all be living in a post-apocalyptic society, I think, probably. Or are we not already?
What was that new area in Destiny called? Ruined Europe or something? I can't remember. That's what it will be.
Yes, ruined Europe. But, well, yeah, heading that way. Did you guys watch Eurovision? I watched Eurovision. It was a lot of fun. It's the one thing that gives me hope for Europe, actually.
Yeah,
Eurovision. I don't know what that.
Couldn't believe the yodel didn't win it. We were rooting for the yodeling song.
I can't even remember who did. Oh, it was that whiny dude, wasn't it? The hipster guy.
Yeah.
He was
Portugal.
not very good. First time ever, wasn't it? You watched as well, Richard?
In and out. I just watched bits.
You didn't commit. You got to commit to like 4 hours of tedium. That's like the rule. If you're watching Eurovision, man. It's got to be done. Anyway, that's the end of episode 26. I've been your host, Ben. I don't think I actually introduced myself at the start of this podcast, so I hope that helps you know sick rambly one. That's been Richard.
Hey, goodbye. See you next time.
And he's been Joel.
Yep. Nice to hear you.
You can find everybody. You can find everybody except Joel on Twitter because we think he's some extreme right-wing Nazi type, and he's hiding himself with his alt-right account. That's right, isn't it, Richard? That's what you said earlier.
That's what I said.
That is what you said.
I'm standing by that until I'm proved different.
Yeah, that or it's like some secret /fiction Twitter account he has that he doesn't want us to know about. It's like shipping like really weird TV shows together.
I just
and stuff.
post nudes of myself on it all the time. You wouldn't be interested.
On Twitter. That's disturbing. So disturbing. Yeah, get to bxbgames.co.uk. That's the website. Follow us on the Bxb Games Twitter account. Rate and review us on iTunes. Do all that lovely stuff. It's going to get crazy soon. We had Destiny just recently, but there's E3 is around the corner. Things are going to be busy. Going to be hectic. Lots of news, lots of announcements, lots of podcasts, lots of games. It never ends. Well, it does now. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.